So you got the so you have a clock buff, right? That triggers at the start of every turn, but 2 times. Yeah. For the
Yeah.
next 2 times, 2 turns. Yeah. It's 2 times in effect, and the start of every turn. And you have
It's
the other 50% quick down is like separate.
and so like when you do it, it applies the effects.
So
It
you get the
applies the effects when
50%
you
quick
cast it,
down.
and then on your
Yeah.
next turn, before you can do any other buffs and skills, it applies it again for one
Right.
turn or two
And then
times
again
on
in the
crits,
next turn.
and then on the third turn, it does the same thing. So it's a total of it's a debuff for three consecutive turns, starting with the
Yeah.
turn you do. Why?
Hmm?
No. It so MHX does it at the end of the enemy's turn
Yeah.
versus this one. This one does it at the no. There's videos of it being applied on this next wave. Yes,
Yes.
I've seen
Tested
the
and it's
videos
coded like this.
because that's why a double causer drop system works. Okay, I'm gonna say works in quotation marks. I'm gonna say it
No,
in
that's
quotation
fine.
marks. It's not good, but it functions.
Yeah.
It, but no, this is 100. This is 100% designed to 100% designed to be like for
Yeah.
farming purposes.
But yeah, just to clarify how it works.
Alrighty.
Have fun.
Okay, sorry we were running a little bit behind here today, chat. The tweet is already live. Do me that favor, go give it some love. And let me grab you guys today's sauce, which I'll probably have to ask for a favor from you guys on. But I didn't want to not use the art. But I'm going to give you guys the link, but unfortunately I believe the sauce for this one's broken. Hello Yugi, how's it going? Damn, that's a big Aurelia, as always. Okay. I think we are good to go. Pop that open. And get this party started. Hello, everybody. How's it going? I hope everybody is doing well today. We obviously have new content on JP. Here is today's artwork for you. It's going to be a little bit difficult to reverse image search because that is not the whole image. This is actually Artoria eating with Janu at a cafe. But yeah, it's basically the problem that I have here is that apparently the Pixiv link is broken for that. So I guess the artist took the piece down or deleted their profile at some point. So we don't have it. So if anybody manages to find it, does some internet sleuthing, let me know. I'll post you guys an actual sauce for it. But it be what it be. Okay, I think we're good there. Hello, guys. Bit of a sucker for silly MP animation, so that rubber ducky NP tickles my fancy. I bet it does. Yeah, we're gonna be talking to you guys about Khadroth drop here. I have some NA stuff I gotta do. Ba-da-da. So again, I believe we get the 90++ on NA tomorrow, aka tonight, when we have reset. So that should be nice, as we'll finally be kind of like to the best nodes and able to farm some. Oh, there we go. I'm actually, if anything, I'm low-key kind of looking for the green one, because the green one just gives more embers. And in a weird way, I don't really care about the materials on NA, because none of these materials are the newer variety, so it just doesn't really impact me too much. Wait, was this comp that I was running actually good? I'm trying to remember whether or not this one actually completely worked. We'll see. This may be a 4-turn chat, because like I think I had this set up, and I just don't remember if it actually was fluid looping. I think it was. I think the issue at play was that when I originally set it up, I didn't have a third support there on the back line. Also, that 48% freaking sucks. Do it like that. Then we're gonna have to do it like that and that, and then that's gonna give me 98. I'm only gonna have the 30%. Will we kill? Gonna get bet on the 33k. That should be enough not to. Yeah, so that should be enough to get me the extra refund that I need. I think this loops to 98%. The 90++, it's difficult? No, it shouldn't be too bad. There is at least a little bit of like, hey, you might want to use the welfare, but that kind of requires you to have the NP levels for her, and I feel like that doesn't happen until after story is complete. So you can definitely try to blitz story and then go unlock them, but that is certainly going to be part of the problem there. Oh, you know, it might help if I actually use the arts up from Castoria. Oh my god. That's not ideal. So this is probably going to be a scuff now because of that. There's a low chance of a crit. I'd rather it not happen. We're going to try to keep reducing the low health enemy because that's the way to get the most overkill hits. But you got to be careful not to accidentally kill, especially when you're dealing with berserkers. No Halloween on JP. Yeah, honestly, this JP event's kind of odd, right? Like, it's not a lotto, it's a mission-based event. In fact, it's a board game event, but it doesn't use dice. So it's rather weird with the way that it functions. That should be a 3 turns of defense down, so we'll go ahead and pop it. And I'll use that. That'll be an easy free boost there. Arts team with that arts up. Nice. Yep. It happens to me sometimes. I'm glad she's an alter ego. I'm going to be real with y'all. Like obviously I'm going to go through her kit with you, but I do have some issues with the kit, and I feel like, really, Drain? Fuck you, Ghost. Ah! Okay, let's do that. We're gonna end up carting it out. It's gonna be a 5 turn because that stupid ghost actually drained me. And the ghost should be demonic, so that should fall under her niche. How old is Khadroth drop? Do you want the actual answer to that question? Like, and so this is where I get philosophical with y'all. Like, but to me, it's not even philosophy in the slightest. I'm like, if it looks like a child, talks like a child, and acts like a child, it's a child. Khadroth drop, I won't say necessarily thinks like one, but the rest of it certainly is that way. And so it's one of those deals where I go, nope, not touching that with a 10-foot pole. Like, again, she has the child servant trait. That's enough for me right there to say, yeah, no, this is a child. Yep. In looks and deeds, yeah, she throws temper tantrums quite literally. How's it going, Steezy? How are you doing today? Did you roll for her at all? I got to watch a little bit of Trub's rolls this morning, but not much more than that. Do that. Come on. There we go, game. Okay. Ooh, no, that will kill. Try it like that. I rolled a bit, no luck, just 2 Emias. Well, that Emia buff's pretty insane. Like, we'll go over the upgrades as well. I am, like, actually just beside myself by the fact that they're like, hey, you know who needs a buff? Emia. And I'm like, huh? And then the buff that they give him isn't Roias. It's like, what are you doing? This is just ridiculous. It is literally you just dogpiling one freaking unit. Still 98%. Okay, I'm gonna declare this comp doesn't really fully work, and this is gonna be an issue. I wish this had like the 10% charge that the other Da Vinci's did, but it do not. Okay. Had to balance giving Geronimo a buff. Yeah, we can't make, Geronimo too strong. I got like 3 Emias only. Oof. Yeah, I don't know. I'm okay with Emia being a strong unit and stuff like that. I am really surprised because like that buff is absolutely not one that he needs. Like there was no part of that buff where you went like, oh yeah, this is something that Emia actually like needed, right? Instead it was, no, hey, this is overkill. Like, why are you giving him this? And I guarantee they'll give him another one too. Yeah, because he still doesn't have Roias, so it'll be a thing. How many Redmans have you gotten in your account, Cad? I don't know. It's been a hot second since I've seen one, but like, let's be real, right? Like, I literally had like, God, what was it? Over like 35 or something at last count. I don't remember. Like Emia, I have seen my fair share of Emia. We can't have a weak pro tag, yeah. Except he's not the pro tag of FGO. That's us, right? So I don't know. I certainly like the Yagyu buff. We'll talk about that one, and then and Geronimo's buff. I have words for the devs for Geronimo. You'll just have to wait on that one. Will I roll for Khadroth drop? I will not roll for Khadroth drop. To be fair, she is, to me, not something that like you have to have. She doesn't have anything that's like truly unique about her kit. She does have some like niche stuff in there and everything, and I don't think she's a bad unit, but I think she's an easy skip for me as a child servant when why did I go in with the exact same comp? When basically I'm sitting there going like, oh hey, I don't necessarily need this character, should I roll? And then it's a child servant on top of that. I immediately just go, no, I'm not rolling, right? Like there's almost no consideration there. The only consideration would be, is it a saber face somehow? And then I would be like, okay, well, I'll acquire it because it's a saber face, but otherwise, no. I should probably not buff everything here, but be what it be. Wondering if maybe reducing the high health enemy will somehow work, but probably not. The problem is she's too buffed. I can't use one of her cards. She'll just kill. Same thing with leading with the Buster card. I feel like will be too strong. Take responsibility, senpai. Yeah. Against Shakespeare and Mozart, all one-turn buffs, he has the highest card type buff. What do you mean? Like, what do you mean by that statement? Are you saying that his is also 50%? Because, like, sure. Like, I don't dispute that. I'm seeing some comments here, right? Like, it's like Lasagna gave Emia that buff because favoritism. Lasagna isn't beating that allegation at this point. Nor do I think it ever really can, right? Lasagna has 100% played favorites for a long time. That is indisputable when you have a unit like Emia that has now had 6 buffs, and then you have a unit like Geronimo that's literally getting his 2nd buff ever. His first buff was his NP interlude, right? You have several units out there that still have not received a buff. So yeah, I think it's pretty obvious that there is some favoritism. I'm okay with them buffing from the general standpoint of units need to be kept viable and workable in the higher tiers of content. So you won't catch me going like, oh, why are they buffing in that regard? Where I'm going to criticize the buff is where I feel like it's either tone deaf and not what the unit needed, or basically that it is again, being put on a unit that's already in a good position. I feel like, especially for Emiya being a very like buffed unit at this point, Emiya did not need a sixth buff. He's absolutely been fantastic already. I don't really understand their logic on that one. We'll go ahead and pop this. And we will hope for arts cards, but that will not happen. Ghost Train again, I know. As I'm saying, this buff doesn't work, or this comp doesn't work. So I'll have to adjust the supports. You're having how many skin costumes again? Yeah. Between Emiya and Salter, someone at Lasagna loves Heaven's Feel route and is okay with everyone knowing it. I mean, like I said, I don't have any issue with them like again, liking Emiya and wanting to do him justice. The reason that I point this out is like, are you going to tell me that there wasn't another AoE archer that you couldn't have given a buff to? like seriously, right? Like, just thinking about that, you kind of go like, okay. I get that he's involved in the event, but like, I don't know. I think they could have easily just picked somebody else or something. G-Man, another buff in the near future. This buff is weird. Yeah. They need to give Ruler Da Vinci a way to control which buff her NP gives. Yep. I've said it before. RNG on skills and skill activations is bad. It always will be. They will never stop that from being bad. And you can see as they're starting to try to give a bunch of units that have RNG based skills either a way to control that RNG or a way to give themselves like buff success chance to prevent it. So I think it's pretty clear at this point the devs have realized those design choices were not good. Players did not like them, and they're starting to move away from it. But yeah, for what it is at this point, they have still utilized it. Buff Emiya Alter instead? No, don't buff Emiya Alter. Fuck Emiya Alter. And the reason that I say that is Emiya Alter got a very, very strong buff with the buff that he did get. Emiya Alter still stands atop the single target archers as a 4-star, where he has stood for like 6 years now. Like, they straight up need to surpass Emiya Alter. It's getting kind of dumb. Now, could you give Emiya Alter a buff and would it break him? No, you absolutely could give him a buff and it would be perfectly fine. I'm just of the opinion of if anyone needs the attention, it's not the 4-star at that point. Your 5 stars are really hurting for that in that regard. Imperial privilege is a bitch. I mean, yeah, it kind of always has been. Like, it's been a very, very good skill for a long time, but it is certainly just one of those really like annoying type of skills where when you need it most is when it doesn't work. How about a new single target archer? Emiya Lily? No, I'm good. I'm gonna say something here right now. The less child servants in the game, the better. I know that's gonna rub some people the wrong way. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. Do I have an actual arts loopable saber on NA at the moment? Shiki's like almost there. We don't have her last upgrade, right? Yeah, she's the charge. Oh, we have the... Wait, which is the one that we're missing? Is it the arts up? Not every servant has to be fat bait, you know? My counter to that, and I hate to say this, my counter to that is straight up that every servant is fat bait to someone. Therefore, I choose having less child servants in the game to be the lesser evil. If you catch my drift. But not everyone, at least. True. The more booba, the better. Correct. How do I want to do this? Probably like that. Oh, I shouldn't have popped that this turn. Oh, I do have stars. Okay. Go like that. Get the 100% charge. Updated the art command because Jay found the Twitter source. Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, because that was just one of those where it was like really kind of difficult in that regard. Yeah, there you go. So there's your full image with Arturia with Janu. Oh boy. So apparently Twitter has now changed it. I guess you could opt out of allowing your post to be used for AI generative training. And apparently they've removed that ability to opt out. Ooh, 1,500 bits. Thank you, Itsu. Late happy birthday. Thank you. I appreciate it. You didn't have to do that. But I hope you're having a good day. I hope they make all the buffs of Muramasa's first skill 3 turns. I'm gonna say this. Muramasa is one of those units where he's kind of in my doghouse. I like him. I obviously like the character. I like the design. My issue is with like the kit. Muramasa is in my doghouse because he's one of those units that I would almost call like a perfect unit. What do I mean by that? What do you give Muramasa? Besides like more damage, right? Like, and so we can come up with that and we could say like, yeah, hey, maybe you could like give him another niche. Maybe you could extend the duration of his steroid. Maybe you could do these other things. All of that is icing on the cake. None of it is addressing an issue that Muramasa actually has. Muramasa is a strong unit, and Muramasa can do just about everything. And that's one of my issues with Muramasa. They gave him too much, right? So it's a very similar issue that you have with like Kiara. It's a very similar issue that you have with Melisande. It's a very similar issue that you have with Tiamat. You start looking at some of these units and you start looking at their kit and you're like, what were you thinking? Like, and the equivalent is like, so for example, chat, imagine a unit that like their main gimmick is they have sure hit. Then imagine you have another unit and that unit, instead of having sure hit, has invuln pierce. And then imagine you have a third unit, and that third unit has invuln pierce, defense ignore, power mod, 100% crit, 50% charge, and you start going like, what the fuck, right? Like there's a point where, oh my god, this one unit has way too much going on with it. to the point that they have left themselves no real room to upgrade the unit. The unit is a Swiss Army knife and just does everything. And that's kind of Muramasa to me. Muramasa is one of those units where like they just kind of gave him too much. So as a result, like I'm fine with Muramasa remaining untouched, because the second you buff Muramasa, he ends up putting pressure on like everybody else. So if Muramasa stays a little bit underpowered in terms of like damage output, or hey, I don't have like the full duration on my steroids, that's fine to me. That's a-okay. As cool as it would be to give him that, it's also one of those things where it's just like, holy crap, they have opened Pandora's box and they cannot put it back in. Give him ignore anti-purge. Yeah, I like that's the only thing he's missing at this point. Has 2 types of NP, forgot about that. Yeah, I mean 200% crit if they have evade or invuln too. Right. And that's what I'm saying. It's like, usually you can tell this is the case, and here's why, chat. You can usually tell this is the case if you take one of those major things that they gave the unit, completely remove it, and the unit would still be extremely strong. That's your easy test for, hey, this unit might have too much going on in their kit, right? For instance, the example that I've used before is Melisson for stuff like this, and the fact that, oh, how much charge does Melisson have? Well, even if we throw out things like Koyenskaya, Melisson has 130% charge. The hilarious part is you could remove 50% charge from Melisson and she would still be a Black Grail Looper. That's a sign that you have too much, right? Like, why? I don't know. The devs are idiots. That's the best thing I can say in that regard. At least in that instance, in that example, they way over designed something. They totally missed their mark and they ended up like splurging on one unit. And that's kind of why I'm a fan of them not going as insane. I understand them wanting to make units special and powerful and all that, but to me, the game is usually better served by keeping the things relatively in balance, by making sure every unit feels unique and special and powerful in its own ways. And the problem with that is going to be if you make a super unit, a unit that is covering every base and is way too powerful, it's difficult for any other unit in their class, in their niche, whatever, to actually feel like they are. Dang, now I want a 120 my NP3 Muramasa. Oh, well, this is the hilarious part. So Muramasa, at this point, while he does everything, his true deficiency is damage at this point. Muramasa is the, I think last I checked, 3rd highest AoE Arts Saber. 3rd highest AoE Arts Saber. Yes, I did not stutter. He is beaten by Yamato Takeru and Void Shiki. And both of them are also Black Grail Loopers at this current point in time. So that's the interesting thing. And this is where I'm gonna use this as the example, right? The reason that this became a thing and the reason that they needed to do this is because you had Muramasa come out and he does like everything. And Muramasa's damage was solid. Void Shiki's damage, at least for a one-shot, could outpace him, but Void Shiki couldn't loop for the longest time. Now, this is how it looks in a loop. Instead, Void Shiki now outpaces him in a 3-turn. That's how it should be, considering Muramasa does so much more kit-wise than Void Shiki does. So I'm okay with that. And then you have Takeru that's come out, and Takeru's really kind of neck and neck with them, but then Takeru also has his own or her own niches that allow them to pop off, right? So I'm okay with that. I think that's good design, and I think that's something that they had to do because they realized, oh crap, we made Muramasa too good. We now need to buff everybody else beyond Muramasa. And that's where I'm saying, like, they kind of have to do this with certain other units in the class. And it's kind of dumb when you start considering some of who those people are. So for instance, chat, this is kind of meaning that for a lot of your alter egos, for instance, to be considered to be good, who are they going to be judged against? Who is their bellwether? It's Tiamat. Tiamat already does stupid damage. Tiamat does so much damage that she can out damage, in some cases, night classes against night class enemies. That's a problem. Because if you want to make someone stronger than Tiamat, because Tiamat's got such a good kit, oh shit, how do you do that? Because you're now breaking the rest of the game's balance if you do that. Same thing with someone like Kukulkan. She is extremely strong. How do you make someone stronger than her? Oh crap. Like, that's the considerations that they have. So the issue isn't that they power creep, for instance. It isn't that they made a unit strong. It's just how far beyond the pale they often make it. The reason it worked in Muramasa is because while they gave Muramasa's kit just about everything, the one area that they kind of limited Muramasa on was damage. And so they have been able to buff other units beyond Muramasa so that while he still has an extremely strong kit, he is no longer top dog in damage, as it should be. Compare that to, you know, like, say, somebody else in the case of, like, Kukulkan. Good luck. Kukulkan is so strong in damage. If you want people to roll on other units, you have your work cut out for you. And that's kind of the problem that they're going to have going forward. They have basically managed to go like, oh, okay, so like here's one unit of the class, here's another unit of the class, here's another unit of the class, and then here's this broken OP unit in the class. This is not a good thing, right? Like, this is way too overkill on how much they made the performance. Now, instead of it just being like, hey, what if the next unit that we made was this strong, and then we only have to catch people up by like a little bit to maintain that balance? No, now you literally need like a whole nother unit's worth of damage. It starts getting like really, really freaking dumb. And that's the problem that they're going to have. It's not that they power crept, it's the sheer magnitude by which they did. That is going to be rough for them in the future. We'll see how they handle it, though. I can think of ways by which they could. It's just none of them are without some form of pain tolerance. Aren't archers compared against Summer Musashi now? To a degree, yes, right? I firmly believe, at least when we're talking cross classes, that there is naturally going to be the argument of, well, sure, but do I maybe instead take the true counter class to have a safer, more reliable time? That is always going to be a thing. I do think at least Musashi is going to be somebody without having charge that is tempered by refund and node structure. So Musashi won't always be viable. But yeah, I think that is a problem that they have moving forward. Thank you to the anonymous gifter who gifted one to Chase. Appreciate it. And Itsuwu, thank you for the tier 1. Jack, can we get some love for our subs? And welcome to the family, Itsu. Where does OG Nero fall on that list? Curious. OG Nero's come a long way. She used to be relegated a lot more to challenge, and I think that's kind of what you're beginning to see a little bit in the game with how they're handling things. Is it does appear like the developers are kind of realizing that, hey, what people want is like meta farming things and stuff like that. They're beginning to design around that. They kind of always have to an extent, but I think you're beginning to see it more and more, where like now it's the assumption that every unit will have certain things, and I think it's an interesting way of handling it. I think that's kind of good for the game, but also kind of not, because you don't want homogenization a little bit. That makes the game boring. That makes every unit the same, and it means you only end up needing to have one or two of the units, right? So OG Nero was somebody that was way more for challenge, and they have turned her into a pretty robust farmer now as well. I think that's good for her because it means that she sees a lot more use potentially than she used to, but it certainly results in some level of power creep and some level of like, hey, what are we maybe doing? Are we even really designing units specifically with challenge in mind anymore? Archers must now compete against water skis. Side note, as an actual buff, I can see them giving Muramasa is giving bonus damage against Divine on NP. Yeah, which is really interesting because that's what the alter ego form of him has in the story at points. I am kind of surprised that they didn't do that, but I'm okay with it. I don't think that's like that crazy in that regard. Especially if the power mod in and of itself was not like absurd. Like if it was like a 30% power mod, that'd probably be fine. And that's where I've said before, I think one of their best ways to balance is to give like skill-based niches. So things where it's like, hey, I can use this, it's good, but it's not forever. And it is a reason to use specifically this unit over other options. I think the more you have of that in the game, the better it is. So like that way you have the unit that's like, oh, okay, I'm anti-divine. Well, I'm anti-man. Well, I'm anti-undead or something. Right? These are three different niches. These are three different uses. Having a structure like this means that, you know, like, again, maybe Unit A here, and we'll just call them Unit A, Unit B, and Unit C. Basically, like, let's say there's a little bit difference in performance, right? And so you're like, okay, Unit B is the best outright. But maybe Unit A has a niche where they go further than Unit B. And maybe Unit C has a different niche where they go further than Unit B. And so you have reasons to take A and C. But also, if none of these niches apply, B is just the superior choice. And I think this is good design, because I think this allows you to basically have options and have points where each of these three units stands out and is, in that moment, the strongest option, rather than somebody is just always the strongest. Because what we kind of have right now is like stuff like this, right? We have Unit A and Unit C, and then we have Unit B, and this is Unit B. And you never bother with Unit A or Unit C because Unit B is just always the strongest option. This is not good design. This basically just results in everybody rolling and getting Unit B and constantly using Unit B. So they need to, like, they need to deal with this, but obviously this is going to be a thing, like, at various points of balance. It just naturally will happen where, like, maybe Unit B just got a really nice upgrade, and thus it is standing out from the rest of the pack as it is currently the strongest unit because of that buff. So as long as they maybe somewhere down the line buff Unit C, buff Unit A, we're good. But this has kind of been the issue, is when do you get these buffs? This has kind of been JP's dominant issue game balance wise, is buffs have been really slow to come out across the years. And while, you know, some of us will retain faith that the devs are trying their best and they are attempting to buff, there is certainly an issue with, you know, how long it actually takes for any given unit to get that upgrade that they need to actually be in contention, be in competition, be viable. And I'm going to say most units in the game are viable, but as we start to talk about like 90++ content and beyond, that certainly becomes way more of a concern. Is, hey, those damage numbers actually do begin to matter, especially when we're talking lower NP levels. How do we make this good? How do we make this balanced? Because realistically, you want the majority of your roster to be viable at any given moment. You want them to be able to be taken into whatever content that the player is doing, assuming they set up the party and the structure of the composition correctly. I'm going to do LB6 quest, Barghast quest with only 3 servants only. I assume you're in part 3. I'm trying to remember that fight exactly. Hey Spartan, how's it going? I think you just need to break the break bar, if I remember correctly. It's certainly a little like difficult, but my advice would be to get like basically to the point where you've set yourself up to be able to like fire off the right amount of NPs. Although that might be the NP resistant one. I don't remember, so you might not have to critter, but it basically ends up just being the case of you need people that actually can survive long enough to dish enough damage. And don't be afraid to use things like blue prisms or your command seals if you need to. Doubly so if you're on JP, because on JP right now, command seals replenish 3 per. So. I'm NP sealed, yeah. So you probably want crit-based servants. So someone like Super Orion might be really, really good for you. Simultaneously getting options that can like help keep the group up for a little bit longer. Tristan, David, really just archers that actually have some amount of survivability built into their kit, like a dodge or an invuln or something, can also help. Super Orion Smash, yeah. I would see if you could try to find a Super Orion on support. That should be able to help you out quite a bit. Which I don't remember if it's force support for that fight or not. I have Seal. She helped. Yeah, she can. Having the ability to card lock and manipulate that can be really, really nice. So this is a mission-based event right now in JP chat. You can see it is LB6 related. They've said that the story will have potential spoilers for LB6, but I'm not super worried about it. I don't think you're going to see anything like that on stream. I assume it's just going to be in the crux of the story. Things will get mentioned. But yeah, it is a mission-based event. It deals with LB6 stuff again, and we have Khadroth drop from this event. So it's certainly an interesting one. Oh, it looks like my my Tide pods are ready. Sorry, my storm pods. Okay, they're back down to 20 AP. Thank God. Team dies, I'm going to use Castoria and come back. Yep. I think that's... Especially if you don't have a good stable of archers up and ready for you, that's just going to be one of the things you'll kind of have to do. Is you'll have to find a way to brute force it for now, or again, just take your time and actually, you know, try to work on it. But if you're in a rush to get up to be able to play this event, I totally understand trying to bull rush your way through. Am I gonna roll? No, I won't be rolling for Khadroth. We will be going over her kit here though in a minute. Bustin' makes me feel good. What's your opinion of Eliza, the nine tattooed dragon, now that the NA story is almost wrapped up? An interesting event. I like the story. Like I find it comical at points, so it's pretty good. Do you think week 2 banner would be Violet to finish the Sakura 5? Violet is in Khadroth drops animations, but I don't know. I assume we will eventually get Violet. Whether or not it will be here, whether or not it will be now, I'm not sure. So we'll just have to see. I will say, I think you will eventually get her. Whether or not it's here and now is I think, the bigger debate. I don't think we'll need another one. Oh, yeah. No, like I said, I think the devs are eventually going to realize that. Don't get me wrong, though, right? Because somebody like Khadroth drop, the name alone is going to drive servant sales for that one. And I think they know that. So, like, yes, having a unit out there like Tiamat's really going to make a lot of people go, man, I don't need an alter ego. But with a name like Khadroth, with her being one of the Sakura 5, yeah, people are going to roll, right? Like, I don't think that's going to be the issue on this particular one. I think that's more of an issue with things like, was it Azumi no Isora, the twins, right? Like if you have a more rare, more unknown alter ego, I think that's going to be more of a problem with that. Particularly if their design is not immediately like the hottest thing ever. People will still roll characters regardless of game performance. Not everybody plays this game for game performance. Not everybody feels like they need to be a meta slave and have like the best things ever. But I do think that to a large extent, a good chunk of the game is driven by that. Did I not use her charge skill? Fuck. That's a problem. I might be able to make this work, but I gotta risk it with the 90% here. Tiamat's very good and charming, though. Yeah, and that's kind of the other issue, right? Like, when you have a strong unit that is also popular, good luck to the rest of the units, right? I think that's that's one of the issues that you have with like Melisson. Melison's strong, but Melison's also popular. So a lot of people don't want or don't see the issue involving Melisson. That in and of itself is kind of an issue, right? So it's how it unfortunately is. You know what? Let me go ahead and pop this because I do actually have 2 Seal Buster cards. I could go for the full chain, but I think it's probably better to go for the triple Buster here and see if I can. I'm not going to get it dead, but it should be low enough that the NP here should kill it. I think the last streaming I'll be stuff in like 2 weeks, right? Listen, chat. I don't care. and why do I not care? Look at me. I'm playing JP right now. But I think the essence of that, right, is again, they don't really care if you're covering the game. And they're not going to go after everybody because they don't have the time or the effort to do so. It's more of a warning. It's more of a, hey, these rules are now in effect, and if we feel the need, we will actually go after you. Yeah, they'll only enforce it against people that they feel like are a problem. And I'm okay with that, honestly. Space Air is just kind of OP too, but with killing all extra classes and being neutral to main class. Yeah, kind of. I think like this is an argument that can be made, and it's usually made by people that have a really strong Space Airish. And it's the same argument that we have going all the way back to like Space Ishtar, right? Like, yeah, you can use that. You can make them good. Are they OP? No, actually. And I'm going to say the only way they're OP is when you roll like NP5 and Grail at the 120 and you have a super variant of that unit. Then yeah, it's OP. But a lot of units at that point are. And I don't think it's that crazy, right? So like, is she strong? Sure. Is she going to be your one-stop, one-size-fits-all solution to everything? Fuck no, she won't be. I was asking why they didn't make the event LB6 locked anyways. I don't know. I have no idea, right? They'll only enforce it when enough people are reporting. Yeah, probably. And I'm going to say this isn't even an issue for like NA. Like if you're an NA person, you can try to report someone. I don't think it's actually going to matter. Like I don't think they're going to listen to you. I think they're going to listen to the Japanese community is speaking up and saying, hey, this is a problem. Y'all need to deal with this. And so this is going to allow them a little bit more like capability to say like, hey, look, this person's in violation of the rules. So yeah, I don't think they're actually going to go around patrolling stuff. Hello, SSJ. How's it going? Oh, hold on. I must have had a lot of stars get soaked to the wrong one there. Nobody will give a rat's ass about NA streaming. Yeah, I don't think anyone will. Single seems to go back and forth between we should story lock events versus new players should be able to tackle the event regardless. And I can understand why that is, right? Like, because if you think about it, their primary goal is to get people to complete story because it's the main determinant of people playing the game and spending money on the game and continuing to exist in the game's ecosystem and infrastructure. But on the flip side, if they make the game where everything is gated, new players can never get into it, and then new players begin to scream, and then they start to lose potential new customers, and they go, oh, fuck. So they're caught between a rock and a hard place. They need to force players to move on and do the story, but they also need to make things accessible for new people, and so that's why you see them kind of going back and forth. I'll try to use my new Lartory. If they put out any Archer node, good, do that. And grill her to 120. Annoyed with people that were fear-mongering, intentional or not. I'll say this. I don't blame any content creator for being concerned about that. And the reason why is because it is truly unique. The developers have never really made a proclamation like that before. And it is certainly concerning. I think the number one thing in streaming this game that content creators are concerned with is that you have a potentially hostile company that is controlling the game. What does that mean? It means if you're a content creator and you want to stream a game, you do so usually at the behest and the benevolence of the company that owns the game. Case in point, any Nintendo game, right? So if Nintendo decides to go on the warpath and crack down on all of its content creators, you as a Nintendo content creator are screwed. There goes your capability to grow and expand your audience. There goes your capability potentially to make money off of it. That is why it's hugely concerning to any content creator. It deeply affects them far more than any player would be affected by stuff like that. So I don't blame content creators for being concerned and being worried. In my case, I have been around long enough. I have seen the devs do multiple crackdowns, multiple rule enforcements. Never a proclamation like that, but I have seen them actually kind of go into action and take matters into their own hands and do certain things. And it's why I had no concern whatsoever, right? And I said, yeah, I mean, I'll withhold judgment for if all of a sudden they do crack down on me. There's always that possibility. But I was very much in the patient approach of let's see what happens. Like, I obviously am concerned, but I'm not gonna like fly off the handle because I just assume that they're not going to be able to really crack down against everybody, and it's going to be more of a, hey, we now have this rule in place in case we need to enforce it. So far, that appears to be the case, right? But I can definitely say that not every content creator has been around the block like I have. Not everyone has been around as long as I have. And I can easily see how it is more concerning. Now, with some of the ones you listed, yes, they have been around for a long time. They in theory should know, but I don't know how closely every content creator follows, say, you know, like obviously the game, but how closely they follow the actual like developers, right? And how they act and behave. I don't think every content creator does pay a lot of attention to that sort of thing. So to hear that, it probably was like out of left field and they were probably like, oh crap, right? Like, so I understand. I can also say that some content creators will naturally, you know, strike while the iron's hot. They'll see an issue and they will attempt to farm it for content, right? That's a very natural thing. You see a lot of content creators do that sort of stuff. I didn't bother. I don't see much of a point in doing stuff like that. but I can understand why some people at least would. So it's like I get the content creator side of thing, but I also agree. I do feel like the outcry over it was much ado about nothing. That is on the individual content creators. And it just is what it is, right? Like, you could choose to watch them or not watch them based off how you feel about that. I'm somebody that in general, I have to kind of get along with the other content creators in this space. I don't like, poking people. I don't like stirring the pot. I don't like mentioning anybody else by name. So you usually won't hear me bother with any of that stuff. You will occasionally hear me rant about certain things that I find upsetting, that I find to be dumb or stupid or bad, that I maybe see another content creator doing. I usually don't ever mention them by name. Maybe some people can figure out who. I still am not ever going to actually address it because it's just something that is like, it's my opinion on the matter and it deals specifically with how I feel about it. It's not something that's going to impact people as a whole for the most part. Next month on JP is likely Guda Guda. It'll be 1 year between lottos, which is insane. I don't think it's as insane as people think it is. Like it's certainly insane in the sense it's never happened before, but I don't think it's insane in the sense that like they can't do that, or like, oh my god, like what the hell, the game can't exist without a lotto, everyone's going bankrupt. I think we're fine. I do think that some people are obviously running out of resources, but I think it's like, it's okay when you realize you're running out of resources. What do? You farm more resources, and I think that's probably why they're only doing the one lotto. I think they've realized that they kind of need to not give out as much shit for free and force people to actually grind a little bit more, because they have been giving out so much, and they are giving out so much still currently. So I think that's their way of tempering that, at least to some degree. What am I doing on JP right now? I guess we only have these 340 AP nodes right now. I was sitting here looking for like another node, but there is no other node at the moment. Content creators milked it when it was nothing. Yeah, and I'm gonna say especially Twitter. Twitter's really, really bad for stuff like that. Always has been, always will be. It's one of the reasons that I'm not the biggest Twitter person. I'm not consistent with posting on Twitter. When I post, it is usually me retweeting artists, cosplayers, or like somebody that I feel like is making a good or funny point. I'm mostly posting stuff about like my day, or cool things that I've noticed, or some sort of servant analysis, or some sort of news or theory that I have, and that's it. I don't normally sit here and go like, hey, I need to cause drama. I need to talk about drama. I will weigh in on certain things when I feel the need to, but usually I don't like to, and usually by the point I'm weighing in on them, the topic has already spiraled out of control at that point. Doubled everything in the shop, so they're also trying to alleviate things a bit. Well, doubling everything in the shop and increasing the amount it takes to farm it is certainly a issue. So I don't know if it's like those go hand in hand or not. That is the bronze. I assume this is the 4-star? Yes. Oh, wait. Yeah, okay. So that's the 4-star C is the Shez one. So this must be the 5-star? Correct. There we go. Very nice artwork. I'm still surprised that we haven't gotten a bunch of the Korean Sky outfits and stuff like that like we haven't gotten. That is like right up there with like, if people actually want to have like outfits for characters, I'm really surprised that they haven't given us the Korean Sky ones. Yeah, if they like give us a monument lotto, it's like shooting themselves in the foot. Exactly. It's like, I know people want the monument lotto, but congratulations, if they do that, everybody no longer needs monuments. And then they have to wait for an entire like new group of people to actually need it, right? So, I don't know. Korean Sky should have more costumes than Nero does. I mean, in theory, right? And like I said, I've seen people get really upset over the amount of costumes Umu has. I don't care. I'm a-okay with Umu having costumes. I think the only one where like I really understood people's complaints for the most part was the idol event. But even then, it's like it makes sense for her to get one there. I just didn't feel like that particular costume was that good. And it felt like there were other options that could have gotten the costume, because if you remember, they did the whole like teaser thing where they said like, hey, here are the units that could potentially get costumes. It will be one of these. And then they reveal it and it's like, oh, it's Umu. And you're like, wait, really? So like, that's where, yeah, they kind of asked for that one to get complained about. But I have no issue with Umu having a lot of costumes. So does one lotto a year encourage people to grind even harder? In theory, yes. I think it gets difficult because obviously your account, your mailbox, it can only hold so much of any given resource. Like you're going to cap out at 2 billion QP. You can't hold more than that. So it's just going to require you guys to like be a little bit better with how you use and spend the QP, and also kind of how you bank it in the future, like how you manage to also set yourself up to not get bottlenecked for when one of these really good events comes around. So like for instance, if you don't have the ascension materials to actually ascend all of your characters, you're bottlenecking yourself when a lotto rolls around. You might end up having to burn embers or something like that. So that's where, yeah, like how you prepare your account, how you maintain it throughout the year will matter a little bit more. But I don't think it's like going to be that insane or anything like that. And if you guys want, I could definitely sit down and talk with you guys about the general strategy and how I approach things. Make a time machine and farm the Da Vinci Lotto. And like I said, my NA account has been obviously the beneficiary of that. My JP account has not had it, but my JP account has not like been unable to do anything. Like my JP account has largely been fine, and I don't really have issue. Ishtar needs something when all of her ascensions look the same. Yeah, I was surprised that Ishtar didn't get one of them. She was one of my guesses for who would get it. And that's where I've also said, like, I'm surprised they haven't done, like, an idol event too. Because I feel like that would not only be very popular, but it would also, like, it would also give them the opportunity to give some of those other units costumes. So, I feel like that would be one of the most popular events they could run at this point. They would be able to hype it up a ton. Now they would get way less complaints, because back when it originally came out, a lot of people complained due to the stall leading up to the event. Whereas if they came out with it now, everyone's used to the stall. Everyone just knows this is the way it is in FGO. So I feel like if they were to run it now, they would get way, way more like success, right? Rerun idol event. I want the old costumes on JP. Yeah. Well, I think now some of the old costumes have been added to the shop. I don't know if they're all there, but it's always caster pieces that I run out of. Usually the reason for that is because the majority of your supports in the game are casters, and supports are usually the ones that you need to 10 their skills. Or at least you're more likely to level 10 a support skill than anything else. So that is kind of one of the reasons why I see them, you know, like in general, people running out of caster monuments and statues over time, and caster cookies. You're going to level more of those units up. You're going to, because like if you start thinking about casters in general as a class, you have single target and AoE like you do with every other class, but then you also have a bunch of supports on top of that. So yet another reason where it's just like, yeah, you have more of them, you use them more, you level them more, you skill them more. Idle ones are still missing, are they? Okay. Well, hold on. Then someone says the idle ones aren't. Me confuse. Skill gems in a shot. That's a blast from past. It does happen, like, I want to say like once a year, but it is very rare. Because Tamamo still doesn't have a costume? Yeah. I mean, I feel like for the longest time, though, it was Tamamo had more copies and Nero had more outfits. But yeah, now since then, like Umu has gotten quite a bit of versions now. Like what we have 2 sabers, caster, and beast, right? Or am I missing someone? Did I miss someone? Nero gets everything. Is she really that popular? Nero's one of the most popular Fate characters, yeah. Like I'd have to go find the poll, but I know she always ranks really high in the poll. Like last I checked, when they did it like not Fate Stain or sorry, not FGO, but like a proper like Fate poll. Usually, like Artoria ends up being number 1. And you've obviously got like Ren and Sakura there. You've got Emiya there, and like very quickly behind, you'll have some of the extra characters. You'll have like Tamamo, you'll have Umu, so. Because none of her copy has any costumes. Oh yeah, if you're talking about Vitch's costume. I mean, I'm okay. I want Vitch to get more, right? Like I really like some of those outfits and designs. And that's where like I just assume it's a manpower issue, and the fact that I think because skins are not monetized in this game, there isn't a huge incentive for them to do another skin. And here's the big backbreaker. So chat, let me ask you this. What do you guys think the issue is with them adding a new outfit? Is it that they're not going to gain enough money because it's free? Is it that they don't have the artists to actually do the sprite work? Or is it that they don't have the animators to reassemble and reanimate the sprite? Or do you think it's some combination of these? Because I'm going to tell you right now, the answer's this. Yeah, the answer's that one right there. It's not money, because they've been producing skins for free for a long time. The game makes plenty of money. It's not artists, because we actually know for a fact that this is the one thing that they have in spades, including dev comments to such a degree. However, we definitely have indications that the animation department is extremely strapped, and usually delays in game content are attributed to the animation department. So that is where I think, because they are always pushed to the limit, it becomes very difficult for them to ever do anything extra. For them to ever like go like, hey, you know, we already are stuck animating the next chapter. We're already stuck animating all the cutscenes, all the dialogue and interactions there, and then we're also stuck doing the animations for the new like unit that's coming out. So how is it then that we're going to do a new outfit? And if the new outfit doesn't change any of the animations, then in theory it can be done rather easy. But if it does change any of the new animations, then it's a huge problem. Then it's, okay, now it's like almost coming up with another unit, right? That's problematic for them, I suspect. I feel like has changed a bit slightly since animation updates and they started adding character specific animations. Yeah, I mean, if you look, right, like we had our first animation update for the first time in like 2 years when they finally gave, I think it was Tesla an animation update. No, sorry, Tesla was the last one. Who is the new one that they did, chat? Like where it had been almost exactly 2 years. Was it Jalter? Yeah, okay, so like, did they do that one? Yes. Was it good? Yes. How many animation updates have they done since then? Because that was like early in the year. That was basically Ordeal Call 2. Kiara? Yeah, I think Kiara, and I think there was one other, wasn't there, chat? I want to say there's been 2 since then. But that's where I'm going to say it's like, are they doing animation updates again? Yes. Is it a frequent thing? No. No. No, we're going to be very lucky to get like a handful of these a year. In the same way that you'll be very lucky to get, costumes, but a handful a year, right? I think that's the way this stuff is. Obviously you hope for more, and we hope that they hire more animators. We hope that they get more staff to actually be able to pull this off. And like I've said before, I don't even have a problem where if it actually was the difference, if the difference between them not ever doing costumes and then doing costumes was, hey, we want to make some money off of it, or like, hey, we need more funding so that we can hire more animators to do this, I'd have no problem paying for skins. I understand nobody wants to, and I get that. But what I'm saying is, if that was the make or break point between you either get no skins or you get a lot more skins, then I would be willing to pay in order to get more. But the fact that we are just kind of over here and it doesn't seem like money is the issue leads me to believe that this is just not the case. Most people wouldn't be willing, I'd imagine. Oh, no, I think it's the complete opposite. I think most people would be willing. Like when you say most people, maybe not like the majority of players of the game, sure. I think people that already spend money on this game, of which there are a ton, would absolutely be A-okay with stuff like that. Right? Paid skins better be really damn good. Yeah, and I agree with that. That is the issue, is the second you attach a dollar value to it, people really begin to get judgmental about this. And look no further, chat, than what is happening in video gaming, where the second we upped video games from a $60 general price tag to a $70 general price tag, oh my god, look how nitpicky people have gotten on $70 games. People tear them a new one if they are not like immediately an amazing product. People are unwilling to cut developers any slack, and I'm telling you, this is why. It is, nobody wants to pay this price for a game if they don't have to, and they are going to give you a world of shit if you produce a $70 turd. They are going to throw that turd back at you. So it's the same deal. It's like, people are extremely price conscious about certain things. That is one of them. And if you start to monetize skins, they better be damn good. Like, because people are going to be all over the top of you if they're not. It costs nothing to produce a copy nowadays. Well, that's just it, right? It's an opportunity cost. It's, chat, would you rather make this or this? And this is an honest question, because that is the truth of valuation. That is the truth of pricing your product. Everybody wants this. And they will go up to the amount that they feel like achieves the maximum They will set the price of whatever they feel like will get them the maximum amount of money. This is not always true, thankfully. You do see some people that go, hey, you know what? I just don't believe that our game will sell well if we increase the price. So we're going to keep it at a fair price point. But you'll almost never see that. This doesn't exist. This certainly exists, but it's rare. This is the 100% like odds are this is the outcome. But do they deserve triple dollar sign? No, they probably don't, right? However, if you're Ubisoft, you produce this, but you believe that you deserve this. The quadruple A gaming. Yeah, it is what it is, right? Like, I think, yeah, there's some value to, like, I wouldn't say undercutting, but at least like setting your price at a good value for the consumer, and you'll make more money because of that, and people will be willing to cut you a lot more slack, and you'll have a generally more positive reputation, which will circle back and make you more money as more people try out your game because they hear good things. But it's difficult to convince the board not to set the price at whatever they think is the maximum they can get away with because they just want more money. You see the artist who helped design the $500 Faker League skin got laid off? I did not, but that's fucked. That being said, I also assume that a lot of those artists are probably like at least some form of like contract workers. But sorry, $15 for Hood Kagatori. Yeah, like that wouldn't cut it, right? Or the classic one that I always give you is let me see if I can find it real quick. Yeah, here it is. Here it is, chat. So, this was actually a skin on Arcade. Not the Haori, none of that. This. Like that's just a waste to me, honestly. Like no one's gonna pay money for that. Better than glasses. Yeah, I'm not gonna say like they can't really do something like this. Obviously they can, but I looked at this and I was like, damn, Arcade's had some really good skins, and I was like, this is just terrible in comparison to any of those other skins. So like, especially where I think stuff like this hurts is like, imagine you're the Okita fan and you're like, oh boy, I hope she gets a new skin, and this is all you get. Like you don't get some cool new outfit, you don't get like a new hairstyle and like new animation. You just get dog ears. That's it. So it's like that's where I'm gonna say, yeah, something like that's not gonna sell. Like they definitely couldn't do something like that. They could still do smaller stuff for like cheap or free, but it's not going to sell well if you try to actually attach any sort of monetary price tag. And I'm going to say this: you want my honest to God opinion on any skin, and this is the exact issue. This is where we know that companies will go for this instead of this is because. Look at the price valuation, the actual, like, this is the cost that we set a DLC like skin at, especially for gacha games, chat. Chat, how much does a skin cost in Genshin? How much does a skin cost in Star Rail? How much does one cost in Nikkei? I'm unaware if any of the other games have paid skins. $30. $20 for a normal skin, 20 to 60. Jesus Christ. $60 for max. Yeah. Okay, so let's be honest with you guys. Do you know what a fair price for that skin is? That's a fair price. If it's a really good skin, really good, you can say a maximum of $15. Sorry, that looks like a 16, right? I'm gonna say a maximum of $15. $5 is a general skin. $15 is something like the faker skin, and I'm dead serious. Okay. That is good price valuation. Here's why. If you set this somewhere in this range, people will buy your shit. And not just the whales, the dolphins, the cheap to plays. Heck, you might even get a free to play to convert and buy that skin if it's their favorite character, if it's set at that price point. But when you set it at like $60, when you set it at like heck even 20 plus, right? Like, no, you're getting to that point where like this is getting kind of dumb. And I'm going to give you guys an example of this. How much does a video game cost? $70. How much does a pack in a gacha game cost? Oh shit. When you start approaching a pack in a gacha game in terms of cost, what the actual fuck? What are we doing? Because same thing. This is an infinite resource. It costs them nothing once they actually design it. So all they have in it is the labor, the contract fees, and that's it. Maybe a marketplace fee if this is being sold outside of the game somehow. But that's it. That's all there is. They make bank on any additional sales. Their only hope with a monetized skin is that they cover their base. That's it. They just have to make sure that they cover the cost that they put into it. Every single sale that they make after that point is gravy. It is free, 100%. They have covered their costs, their investment into it. Now they are just making pure profit past that point. There is no more cost, no more marginal cost associated with it. That's why I say, like, if you set it lower, you get more people to buy it, and it's the same as if you had set it at like the $60 price range. You're going to end up getting that back from just how many more people actually purchase it. And it will continue to keep making money. But this is exactly why you can tell people just choose greed over and over and over again. Because why? Because they know that some dumbass out there will pay for it. Why value something at $5 when they can set it at 60 and then one idiot that buys it literally ends up paying for 12 other people that would have. Sorry, 11 other people in this case. That's your issue right there. That's why you have a $500 faker skin. Because there's enough idiots that'll go out there and pay $500 for a faker skin. And if even one fucker pays for that, he literally offset 100 idiots that would pay $5 for it. And that is the unfortunate truth. Why buy a $60 2B skin in Nikke when you can just buy the game? Yeah, exactly. Straight up. And at that point, why bother? Because clearly at that point, you're just, you know, a coomer probably. And it's like, just go look at Rule 34. It's free. No. Like, it is what it is, chat. League is now introducing another tier of skin above the ultimate called Exalted for 3,200 or 32,000 RP, which is basically $300. Yeah, it's stupid. I'm sorry. Like, I get that they want to fund their game. The more resources they invest into that, the more they try to justify that $300 cost, the less money they're going to make on it. You will sell more hot dogs at $1 than you will sell at 50. Will you get some idiot to pay $50 for a hot dog? Maybe. But it's probably better long term to actually have people consistently coming back and purchasing that, not thinking that you're a scumbag. That's I think the thing that these companies lose sight of. They don't realize that, like, people look at them and they go like, you're an idiot. like we're not doing this. Okay, chat, let us discuss. So we're going to be going over the new buffs here, and we're going to be going over Marion. Actually, Avalon, on the side, I don't know if you have the time to do it, but can you get me numbers for can you give me numbers at least for Yagyu and Emiya? I don't need comparison numbers, just their numbers. Dota 2 at least lets you trade your cosmetics on the Steam market versus League. Well, that's because Dota is basically a Steam thing at this point, right? That's why I don't play Azure Lane anymore. Why buying skins and invest getting more storage for ships when I can just go to the wiki or Rule 34 for a CG collection game with basically no gameplay nor story. Well, and I think people like the gameplay. People like the story. Like that's why I play FGO, right? But if you're somebody that doesn't, or you don't want to get into a new game, I think it's very easy to be a casual observer from afar and be like, damn, that girl's hot. And you just save yourself so much time and effort. Okay, I actually have not seen if KD, aka Kevin Durant, is updated on here. I'm gonna go with no. Okay, she is here. Azure Lane must be doing something right, at least. I don't know the prices for the skins. Oh yeah, I mean their designs are great. Like I can absolutely say that the whole reason that Azure Lane still exists to this day is purely because they are so on point with their character design and they know their audience. Okay. I gotta double check this here, chat. Oh, that's so dumb. Why do you list it like that? Wait, hold on. Pull it open on the side right here because I gotta make sure. Okay, yeah, so she does have the initial. If you're pitting about the G-Man's buff, I'll give that to you guys when we get to it. Okay. I did not know that. That is actually interesting. And you could abuse that. That is a really, really interesting point. This is a really shit way to phrase this. Yeah. I'm just making sure, chat, that fandom has everything right before I start recording. Because I don't want to like go like, oh shit, they got this wrong in the middle of the recording. Yeah, okay. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't notice that the rank actually changes. There's nothing that actually changes about the NP, but I guess the rank of it does, because we change what the name of it is. But the performance is still the same, which is kind of weird. Also, Avalon, did you hear what I asked earlier? About Emiya and Yagyu? Oh, yeah, I was just asking, if I could get some numbers for those. I don't need comparison. Okay, it's Robin Race. Okay, so we need... is it Chocolate Heaven? Yep, there we go. And then Traces Race On. You know, I really hope at some point, chat, that they finally just... Really? Really, fandom? You have to fully freaking load before... Thank you. Before they, I really hope at some point they actually give us like a proper 50% like quick CE that actually just is all attack scaling. It does what it's intended to do. It is meta. Like, it really feels like they still just continue to this day to screw us. Could also suggest the shoot and see from the current Halloween event. Is that one all attack scaling? I don't even remember. Nope, split. Yeah, it's like it's not bad, but it's the same deal. It's like, hell, people. I'll pop that open. And then Khadroth has no way of like invuln piercing. They made it mixed. I know. It's like they freaking hate quick C's. I don't get it. I gotta be honest. After 9 years, I do not understand their immense fear of Quick. It makes zero sense. It's like they purposely are just sandbagging it. Now, maybe at some point down the line, they suddenly go like, it's all Quick, and it's like the Jeb Bush meme of like him with his arms open as he wins in a landslide, and like everything's just green, and like it's like, yeah, it's all Quick now. All C's that are good are Quick. All Quick units are now meta. We have gotten to like the golden age of Quick, as like there's this new support unit that just makes Quick broken as fuck, and then everybody like that shat on Quick for like the past 9 years eats their words. But yeah, it's like I don't know if like that's their plan, or like they just legitimately hate the card type. They probably saw the numbers and said this is too broken, which is frigging hilarious if they did, because like they're idiots. Like they have so much more broken stuff in the game compared to that. Okay, let us discuss. Then we have the spoiler, totally not spoiler costume. Monka freaking S. Also, that is a huge banana. Decapitating bunny for her. Decapitating bunny's what? Invuln Pierce? I thought it was. Is it NP gain or is it arts up? Oh, it's Quick. Oh wow, I did forget about that. Yeah, that's a good suggestion. I'll go with that. Thank you. I totally forgot that decapitating bunny's Quick. I was thinking it was arts for some reason, but I think what I'm thinking of is the other CE from that. One of the is that Aoko? No. It's one of the sisters. How'd I find that? Grand Puppeteer. Yeah, this is what I was thinking of for some odd reason, and I have no idea why. Because, like, it is not even Invuln Pierce. It's freaking hilarious, though, that I knew exactly what event this was from. But, it be what it be. Okay. Let me make sure that we're all in gear here. I think we are. Fuck blues. The real fuck blues chat. Okay. Actually, hold on, chat. Because I did the whole computer thing, I haven't done a recording since reassembling my computer from the hurricane. Let me real quick test this by recording this, just because I want to make sure that like the sound setting is right. Okay. Let me see. Sorry, my videos folder takes forever to load on my computer because it's so full. It's so full. Okay. Sounds good. I had to make sure. Oh, Dogecam is like tilted to the side. There we go. Hey guys, my name's Khadroth, and today we're going to be talking to you about Khadroth, the game's newest alter ego coming out with the new event on JP. Now, Khadroth is one of the Sakura 5. She has been a much talked about and much awaited unit at this point. For those of you guys that have done LB6, you should recognize at least one of her Ascension forms. But this is definitely a unit that people have been waiting on. We were speculating for a long time as to when we would actually get her, and it's kind of surprising that it took this long actually for her to show up. She is one of the last real loose ends from LB6, so it is certainly nice to have her at this point. And realistically speaking, the only remaining unit of the Sakura 5 that we don't have is Violet, who actually does appear in Khadroth's animations. So we'll see at some point when we actually do get Violet. But needless to say, it is certainly a good day for our Sakura-faced lovers, as we have yet another of the Sakura 5 that has appeared. Now, as you guys can see on the screen, she is a limited unit. She is going to be available in this event. I'm sure this will not be the last time that she is available, but as this is her initial launch here, obviously I can advise you guys that if you want her, you probably need to roll her here and now and basically not put it off, because we don't know how rare she'll be in the future. We don't know how long it will take her to reappear. I am sure she will reappear during certain storylines and stuff like that, but we don't know when she will get another basically campaign for you to actually roll her on. Now, her being an alter ego is certainly an interesting one because she has some unique mechanics in her kit. We're going to talk about that because essentially her being that extra class, alter ego is already one of those extra classes that has pretty good viability. It's at least going to be, you know, like super effective against things. Well, I shouldn't use the term super effective. It's going to be, you know, truly effective against things like Foreigner and stuff like that, where that's the real niche that it has. But it's always had this capability as a class of being quite good against the Cavalry Triangle, as that's going to at least give it some sort of semi-effectiveness and allow it to deal that 1.5 times damage. However, Khadroth is going to have the capability of dealing kind of effective damage against just about everybody, and we'll talk about that, but certainly that's going to be a feather in her cap. But it's not going to necessarily solve every issue that she has, and I do have some issues with Khadroth and her kit. We'll talk about them. Let's go ahead and dive right in and talking about her initial stats right here. So right off the bat, you guys can see she does only have about 11k HP, or sorry, 11k attack there, and only about 13.8k HP. I gotta be honest, neither of these to me feels very robust. I'm actually surprised about that. Usually if we have a unit on the lower end of the attack scale, they usually end up on the higher end of the HP scale and vice versa. However, in this case, I do feel like the HP value is still not really as good as it probably should be for a unit that doesn't necessarily have, you know, like absolutely like barn destroying DPS here. So I do find that kind of interesting, but you can definitely see she will have some things that we'll talk about later on that'll help mitigate this. Now, she is Earth attribute. Her star absorption rate is only 99, which is just ever so slightly below the class average for alter egos. Her star generation, though, is 9.9. That's certainly a decent one. And her NP charge attack rate here is 0.68. Now, 0.68 is higher than average, but still at least a little bit of a concern, as Murian is going to be an AoE quick alter ego. So this is going to be at least somewhat of a concern, is going to be her refund, and it is probably one of her worst aspects. We'll talk about the actual refund numbers later when we get to the NP itself, but this is going to be one of the major issues that she has to contend with. There are going to be ways of dealing with it, particularly with where you may change the party structure to help out, and I'll talk about that as well later on. She has 4% NP charge defense, which is just the amount that she gets per hit as she is hit. So again, if an enemy hits you with, say, a 3-hit attack, you are going to get 4% on each one of those hits in that one attack. So it's definitely a nice thing to have there. Her death rate is 35%. This is higher than average, something you're really going to want to watch out for, particularly if you're taking her into a challenge environment, which is somewhere that I feel like she actually will have some potential use and be quite good, just depending. Her alignment is going to be lawful good, which is quite ironic if you have met her character, but remember that alignments are what the character thinks of themselves, not how you perceive them. Her gender is female. She has the basic traits of child servant, costume owning, fae, humanoid, non-hominide, Sakura series, aka Sakura face, if you will, servant, weak to Enema Elish, and if you're in stage 2, she becomes a summer mode servant. And actually, it doesn't say it here, but I believe this also applies to stage 3 as well from looking at the actual data mine on her. Now, again, talking about her deck here, this is where things get interesting. With a lot of quick units moving forward, we have started to see, at least since Summer Scotty, this sort of standardization of a double quick, double buster type of card deck. And we don't have that with Murian. Instead, we end up having basically, sorry, I called her Murian, with Khadroth. Basically, we end up having the extra arts card. Now, this is good for a couple reasons, but it might also be bad depending on how you want to look at it. It's good from the standpoint of this gives you yet another arts card where if you're really trying to card things out, you're really trying to get extra NP gain and get back to another NP, this is a good thing. Where it's not going to be as good is if you're trying to really pump damage and you've got that Summer Scotty in there, that is one less buster card for you to be able to utilize Summer Scotty's really good buster crit modifier on. So that's going to be a little bit of a concern is, yes, you get more NP gain off the card here by having the extra arts card, but you don't have that extra buster card by which to be able to crit and deal solid damage. It's just going to be a trade-off. It's definitely a nice thing to have. It's not necessarily bad, but it may depend on how you see yourself using Khadroth as well as the compositions that you intend to put her into. But still, having that second arts card means that she has 4 different cards that can do really solid NP gain off of, and the hit counts here are not bad. And especially with her base NP gain rate not being that bad, this is certainly going to be a little bit nice for her. She does still have the 4-hit buster attack, so again, all of her hit counts are basically either average or above, like in the case of the quick and the buster cards. So definitely going to be nice if you're trying to, say, generate some stars with the quick cards and stuff like that. Talking about now her active skills here, the first one is a little bit of a doozy, so let me break this down for you. It's basically going to reduce all enemies NP gauge by 1. That's just, again, if you remember, enemies have those bars that they have. They don't have actual percentages like the player does, so you're only going to get that 1 tick of reduction. Still a nice thing to have. Having a drain can be really useful for stall compositions or for just delaying the enemy's NP from happening at the wrong time. She's also going to have a 30% increase to her own debuff success rate. This is naturally going to be nice for landing debuffs on the enemy. So it's certainly nice that she has this. It is a 3-turn duration, so you will have a little bit of time by which to deal with this. And then she's also going to reduce all enemies' quick resistance and critical damage for 1 turn. You might wonder why I skipped this little portion in the middle, but it's because I want to really highlight the fact that one of these sets here is guaranteed when you use the skill. Then from there, for the next 2 times, once each turn, over the next 2 turns, basically, you will get a reapplication of this effect of the quick resist down, as well as the crit resist down. So this is going to be a nice thing, as it means that while Murian is debuff oriented, you have the capability of getting it on the turn you use it, and then basically once for the next 2 turns afterwards. So you'll have it for all 3 turns. This is really good, and this solves one of the issues that the majority of units have basically with again, like debuffs in general. So obviously, whenever we're talking having a buff on a unit, like having Buster Up, for instance, instead of having Buster Defense Down that you apply to the enemy, having Buster Up is almost always going to be ideal. The reason why is because usually if it's a multi-turn buff, it's going to be carried into subsequent waves with you. Simultaneously, most of the time you won't have any sort of like malice that will prevent you from applying a buff to yourself. So it's usually better to have a buff compared to a debuff where it might only apply to that specific wave and it might have a chance of being resisted. This is at least going to try to combat that, as you do have the debuff success rate. And you also end up having the reapplication of the debuff once each turn. So that's going to be really nice, as it's going to allow you to carry that debuff with you into subsequent waves. However, another nice way to think about this is this will also just keep reapplying it to the same enemy if you're in a challenge environment. The downside is, yes, it can still be resisted, so this is something you're just going to have to watch out for. If Khadroth does not land the quick resist down, this may impact her refund. This may impact her damage. So be very, very careful with this sort of thing, and definitely try to make sure you're putting yourself in a proper composition for this to succeed. It is just going to be something you'll have to deal with, and this is why I prefer buffs over debuffs. However, still to this date, Khadroth at this point has one of the best applications of a debuff that I've ever seen, since this does have multiple chances to apply, and since it will, because of that delayed aspect, basically be carried to each wave in a 3-turn farm. So it's a really, really nice skill. All of this on a 6-turn cooldown. You guys can see the quick resist down is 50%, and again, the crit resist down is also 50%. So really, really nice there. Now, the second skill here is going to be another interesting one. Her whole kit is interesting, but this one's going to charge her own gauge. It is her own 50% charge skill. That's great. I love this. She has a 50% charge skill to help us combat that lower NP region that we talked about. Now, interestingly enough, here there's a second aspect to it, and that's going to be that it charges the NP gauge based off the number of Sakura series units on the field, except for herself. So the interesting point to denote is this note that fandom has right here, and that's that this is per unit. So again, if you have, say, somebody like Melt right alongside Khadroth, that will count. Simultaneously, if you are facing Melt as an enemy, that will also count for this. So it's really, really interesting to denote. However, keep in mind that this is not everybody. So you guys can see here, this is your list of Sakura series units. Study it, learn it, and understand it. But basically, yes, if it's one of those units, you will gain the benefit if they're on the field either on your end or the enemy's end. And that can be used and abused to your advantage. It is also, as we mentioned, per instance of this. So if you have, say, Melt on the enemy team and Passion Lip on your team, that is going to be 2 instances of this. You will literally get 50% charge per instance of it. So if there are 2 Sakura series units on the field at that given moment, you will get 100% charge just from this. The reality here is with the 50% charge from the first part, you really only need 1 other Sakura series unit on the field with her at any given point. And that will be enough to get you that 100% charge. So this is why her refund is so low. It's because of this aspect, because she has the capability of being a 100% charger. The devs knew, and the devs didn't want to make her even more like broken in that regard. So I'm okay with it. One of the things that I think is really nice about this, though, again, is this will give her a true niche of being a 100% charger whenever you are facing one of the Sakura series units. that's going to be really, really solid for her, as that's just going to allow you to easily probably get back to an NP and make things really, really nice depending on the circumstances that you're facing. The other thing to denote is that the second aspect of this skill is if there are no Sakura series units on the field except for yourself, meaning you don't get this second charge effect, then instead it will reduce the skill cooldowns for yourself by 1. This affects all of her skills, including the charge skill that you are currently activating. So it will just go ahead and lower them all by 1. The interesting aspect to this is this does open up certain possibilities with the Atlas Mystic code, with various other quick units that can reduce cooldown like Takasugi, Maid Alter, you name it. But interestingly enough, it does also open up possibilities for someone like Koyenskaya. There's definitely some meme comps you can do with that. I'm not really going to recommend any sort of Koyenskaya setup for her, though, with the reason being that it's naturally going to struggle damage output-wise. I think at that point, you're probably better off using something like Atlas and maybe trying to make it work with a multi-damage dealer type of setup with maybe an actual much more devoted support, or maybe even just someone that's going to do a little bit of overflow support, kind of like someone like Taigong Wang. It can also be a decent option for you. And then basically at that point, you're just going to have each one of those units handle a wave themselves and kind of just help each other out. That can be an option, and I'm going to assume something like that will probably be better than trying to give her what amounts to a Buster buffer instead. So definitely interesting there. You can see this skill is also on a 6-turn cooldown, so you are going to get a little bit of reduction there. The third skill, yet again, another interesting one. This one is going to be a self-cleanse as well as a self-heal. Again, it is a heal of up to 5,000. I like this. It is not a crap shit heal. This is actually a sizable amount of health. So this is a really, really nice one in that regard. I feel like nowadays we get, just very small, like 1,000 to 2,000 HP heals. And yeah, I mean, they might help keep you alive in a pinch, but it's usually, if you're in any sort of knockdown, drag out fight, it is not enough. So having a 5,000 HP heal feels good. That is going to be a strong one. And again, the self-cleanse means she's not going to be that easy to impact with negative status effects. But this is where things actually get interesting. She's going to change her own class to, as fandom puts it, single enemies except some classes. So what you're going to do is you are going to have a target of an enemy as you use this skill. It will then change Khadroth Drop's class to that targeted class. Sounds weird, right? You might be thinking, oh, well, okay, this could have some potential applications. It means that nobody will ever be effective against her because she can just change to their class. That's a good thing. She will always be, in theory, neutral. But it doesn't stop there. And we'll talk about this here in a minute. You can see, however, they do mention that her class score will specifically remain as the alter ego's class score. In other words, she's still going to use all the effects of class score. If you're not sure what class score is, don't worry about it. It's an upcoming mechanic that we will be getting with Ordeal Call when it releases on on NA. But still, yes, her class score will continue to use alter ego regardless of what she changes to. From there, it's also going to reduce that one enemy's defense for 3 turns, which with her being an AoE unit means that we are going to have at least, some amount of splash damage in effect, where it's like, okay, she'll deal X amount of damage to all the units, and she'll deal even more to the main unit that you're actually targeting. This is usually good because most node structures result in a wave kind of being, hey, I have a high health enemy and then like 1 or 2 low health enemies alongside. So it's usually not the biggest of deals if you don't have a like enemy wide, a wave wide defense down. It's usually okay for you to just have a single one like that. But definitely it is something you'll have to watch out for, and it will be a concern. Other interesting things to note here is that she can change to any class except 2. Shielder and Beast are going to be the 2 that you can't mimic with her. However, there are also like other NPC like related classes that like, so for instance, like in the old CCC event, the Lost class that appeared at one point in time. Obviously, anything like that, you're not going to be able to mimic. It's a unique thing, and don't worry about it. But yes, basically every single class, every knight class, every cavalry class, every single extra class, the only exceptions being Shielder and Beast, and obviously some sort of unique, rare situation for an NPC. So really, really nice, and we'll talk about that as we get to the passives as to why you will want to change into that class. All of this, again, on a 6-turn cooldown. Her first passive skill here gives her just magic resistance A. It's some extra debuff resistance so that she doesn't get effective as much. Honestly, you probably won't care too much about this given the fact that she has the ability to cleanse on this third skill. She does have territory creation EX as well. This is just going to increase the performance of these two arts cards. Again, they were only the 3-hit count, and you still only had the 0.68 NP charge, but it still should be relatively good for actual carding gain. And so having even more performance boosts here on the territory creation is really nice. And now we get to her truly unique passive. This is going to increase her own damage against any Sakura series enemies by 30%. This gives her a very nice niche. It is a power mod that she will have against them. So not just NP damage, but carding damage as well will be increased by that amount. Furthermore, this will increase her own damage against the same class enemies as owned by 75% except some classes. Yeah, that might be a little bit difficult to understand. Let me break that down for you. Basically, if you turn into any of the other classes from this third skill, you will now gain a 75% power mod against them. So while you otherwise would have just been dealing neutral damage, and it still will show up as neutral, you will get a very nice power mod boost there that's going to apply. So really going to be nice. It just doesn't impact those two classes that we mentioned before, Shielder and Beast, because you can't turn into them. So really, really cool that you're going to get that, as this turns her into a pseudo berserker of sorts. She will have kind of this applicability to just about everything. And Alter Ego already had a very wide range of units that it could affect. So this is kind of nuts to have this on an Alter Ego already. Furthermore, it was already very difficult for anybody to actually be effective against an alter ego. So it's certainly going to be even worse now, since she can turn into another class, allowing her to kind of morph her way into and out of, an enemy having effectiveness against her, as at best they're going to be neutral against her in most scenarios. She also has the High Servant trait, which still to this point in the game does nothing. Don't worry about it. And again, now we can talk about the appends. So her third append is going to be the anti-moon cancer attack damage aptitude. This does have some synergy. Why? Well, if you'll remember, here are your Sakura series units, 3 of which are moon cancers. Furthermore, Khadroth herself can, with this third skill, transform into a moon cancer, giving her the 75% extra damage. So this third append, being 30% more attack up against moon cancers, yeah, this is actually a pretty synergistic one, and it does work for her if you're going to be using her in that niche. I'm going to say, though, this still won't apply in the vast majority of situations, so don't feel like this needs to be even remotely close to your first purchase with coins. In fact, I'm going to say you're probably better served by grabbing her 5th append, the skill reloading one, as in combination with the skill cooldown of her second effect, means that all of your skills could potentially already be on a 5-turn cooldown from the 5th append, and then get reduced to a 4-turn cooldown by this skill. So this could potentially help out if you manage to have some other source like the Atlas Academy Mystic Code of reducing cooldowns by 2. So definitely a nice thing if you consider it in that regard. From there, I think my second best choice would probably be the mana loading append. This is certainly going to be a nice one as you just get a little bit of extra starting charge to begin sort of the node with. Depending on your circumstances, you might want this. This might make things easier for you. It might set up additional charging scenarios, or you might need less overflow from other additional sources. But yeah, I'm going to say 5th append's probably the go-to on her, then the 2nd append, and then from there you can go after anything that you so desire. The crit append, the extra attack finesse, or again, the anti-moon cancer. Her Noble Phantasm, as we get to it now, is a 4-hit AoE quick NP. So again, this is where, hey, while she doesn't have the best NP gain rate, it's certainly not going to be helped by the fact that she doesn't have that many hit counts on her NP. So this is definitely going to be a concern, as some of our better quick AoE units have things like 8, 10, 11 even hit counts on their NP. She's only going to have 4. Her NP will deal damage to all enemies. It will then reduce their attack by 20% for 3 turns. Not, anything huge, but hey, it might help out. And it will have a 40% chance to stun them for 1 turn. Also, again, not that big of a deal. My advice, don't try to rely on the stun. It will always screw you when you least expect it to. So when you really need it to actually work, that's probably when it won't. So again, don't rely on it. It's there. If it happens, it happens. But my advice, don't count on it. And then her overcharge effect will be that it will reduce their defense for 3 turns by an additional 20%. This doesn't occur before damage goes out, but because it does have the 3-turn duration, it makes it nice for challenge scenarios where you'll be able to stack this potentially if you keep looping against a same enemy. Furthermore, this is at least going to allow you to follow up the NP with additional carding and get more damage out of it, no matter who is using cards against that target. So, now we've talked about the kit in whole. Let's talk about her actual refund, charge scenarios, party composition, you name it. So we still got a lot more to go through. Okay, talking about refund for Khadroth drop. So again, as you guys saw, she does have the 4-hit quick MP. She also has those quick downs that she's going to keep trying to land on the enemies. But overall, she doesn't really have that much in the way of self-steroids to kind of buff herself up. So in that regard, if you're using 2 times Summer Scotty against 3 neutral targets, which should be exactly what you're facing the vast majority of the time, you're going to be looking at essentially with 3 out of 12 possible overkill hits. So again, if you're up against a 3 enemy wave, 3 out of 12 hits means, boom, there you go. We have managed to secure 1 hit of overkill against each of the enemies. That should mean that we killed them. That would be the base amount that you would get for securing a kill. So 3 out of 12 overkill hits. This will only net you with double Summer Scotty 25.70. So literally only going to be 25% refund there. That is not good numbers. This is certainly going to be concerning. If you wanted to hit the 30%, aka 29% breakpoint, really, you're looking at 7 out of 12 overkill hits. This is possible, but this is very difficult to do. This means you are going to be needing to kind of kill with very little in terms of your actual hits there. So you're going to be needing to kill with the first like 10 to 30% of your damage there in order to be able to secure something like that. Certainly might be possible on like a wave 1 with low health enemies. Going to be a lot harder on wave 2 and wave 3 where the enemy's health starts to increase. So yeah, I'm going to say it's feasible, but it's not that feasible, and you need to be very concerned about stuff like that. Obviously, if you're going up against something like casters, then it's only going to need 3 out of 12 overkill hits to hit a nice even 30% breakpoint. Obviously, this still isn't 50%, but you've not got a lot of wiggle room. Being able to try and hit something like 50%, probably not going to be possible without a triple Scotty setup. Could you run a triple Scotty setup? Maybe. It really depends what you're trying to do and how you see yourself working with her. I'm going to say usually if we're talking about a 50% on average refunding unit, Triple Scotty might work out really well with them. But if we're talking about a 30% or less refunding unit, this is usually where we start to brute force things and rely on units like Oberon to pick up the slack, rather than trying to make do with a Triple Scotty setup. Now, with that in mind, we have a couple of charge scenarios that can actually work for Khadroth drop. So you guys can see this is Khadroth drop in a devoted composition for her. So again, against 3 times neutral enemies, she would need 5 out of 12 overkill hits with this setup. This is going to be using Khadroth drop, a maxed out mana loading append, a CE called Chocolate Heaven, which we'll mention here in a minute, which is a 0% starting charge CE, but does give quick up, NP gain, that sort of stuff to help out with refund. So you're going to be starting out at 20%. You're basically going to then from there utilize a third support being Nero Bride. This is going to really help her out because you're going to get some extra NP gain, some extra charge, some extra attack up. So you're going to get the 30% from that. It's going to make her a nice even 50. You're going to rotate Nero Bride out, bring in the other Summer Scotty, utilize their quick buffs, their second skills, and then obviously you're going to end up utilizing Khadroth drops 50% charge. That's going to get you to 100%. You're going to fire off the NP, and you are just barely going to make the cut with 49.45% refund here. Again, that should be enough. It should round up for you. So you'll go ahead now on turn 2, pop one of the Summer Scotty charge skills. That'll get you to 100%. You'll refund again right back to 49.45%. And then from there, you're going to end up getting basically another 50%. Just keep in mind, this requires 5 out of 12 overkill hits. It's possible, but again, you just need to be careful depending on the health values that you're facing in order to pull something like that off. This scenario is going to require 7 out of 12 overkill hits, specifically in wave 1, which is probably where that's the only wave that'll actually be feasible. This is going to be without the append with any 50% C, so it doesn't matter which one you use. This will be a double Summer Scotty and Oberon setup. You'll start out at 50%. You'll go ahead and pop Khadroth drops 50% charge. That's going to bring you up to 100% there. You're going to then, from there, buff both Summer Scotty's first and second skills, and then basically end up at 100% charge, fire off the NP. You're only going to refund about that 30% there. And then from there, you're going to go ahead, utilize one of the Summer Scotty charge skills and utilize one of Oberon's 20%. That's going to bring you up to full, fire off the NP again. Get only 25% this time, as we're not requiring the 7 out of 12 overkill hits. But from there, we should be able to brute force it with both the remaining 50% charge skills from Oberon and the other Summer Scotty. And there you go, fire off the NP a final time. In this last one, we are going to end up having just a 3/3x neutral node again. This one is not going to have a mana loading. It's going to use specifically Traces of Christmas. This is a very good CE in terms of it is 50% starting charge. It is all attack scaling. It is quick up, and it gives NP gain. It's not going to be your best damage dealing CE, but it will be a good option, especially for refund numbers. It is an older welfare CE from one of the Christmas events. We do have an alternative potentially for you, and I'll talk about that here in a second. But this is the difference between using any 50% CE and using a CE that's specifically quick up, NP gain up. So this is going to allow you to not have to require any overkill hits. You're just going to be using double Summer Scotty and Oberon. Basically, both Marines 50% as well as the Cs 50% are going to get the job done in wave 1. Same thing, Scotty buffs and basically fire off the NP. You're going to refund almost that exact 30% again, that 29% that'll round up. You're going to utilize Oberon's 20% and one of the Summer Scotty's 50. Same deal as the prior composition. Fire off the NP again. Wave 3, same thing. Both the remaining 50% charge skills, and boom, there you go. This is how you're going to use her if you want to use her in a devoted composition where everything is kind of held even and there are no extenuating circumstances, shall I say. That is to say, you do not have a Sakura face that you are facing. If you do, you can potentially get away with something more like this, basically not utilizing a charge CE, as that'll allow you that 100% charge on turn 1. So that's where that sort of thing's really going to kind of matter. You're going to really want to make sure that you can find scenarios that you can leverage Khadroth's advantages against the node. But that's going to allow you to have some options there. And that's why we're going to bring up the CE options now for you guys. So as we start to talk about CE options, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up Black Grail. You may have seen she has refund issues. How can we start out with Black Grail? Well, exactly like the scenario I talked about. Imagine it's one of those compositions, but instead you are facing a Sakura-faced enemy. Starting out from 0 is going to get the job done for you. You might need some overkill hits, but hey, if you're going to get any amount of overkill, something like Black Grail is really going to help, particularly if you have an MLB for that solid 2400 attack. And again, that 80% NP damage up there that you guys can get. Sorry about the screen tearing there. So again, really a nice thing if you guys manage to have MLB Black Grail and you've maxed it out. But even if you don't, 60% just from a singular copy, still going to go a long way for you. Now, again, maybe you have some sort of structure that allows you to do this. Maybe you have a party composition where you also have multiple Sakura faces alongside of you. This could also enable something like this. Double Khadroth drop comps are obviously a thing, and you can combine their second skills essentially, as they will each sort of rely on each other for that charge. So kind of in the same way that you see double Doman comps out there in the wild, you are very likely to see something like a double Khadroth drop comp to help you out. Just again, remember, damage may be the concern, as Khadroth drop will be true neutral against a lot of things with the use of that third skill. In theory, you might not want to pop this third skill against something like a foreigner or something like that she would actually already be effective against. You can, but keep in mind that she's going to be getting 2 times effectiveness against something like that. So the 75% power mod may not really make up that difference, and you may not want to. You do have that defense down, so it is something to consider. Just again, pay attention to how much damage you see yourself doing. When in doubt, test it out, see if it works. But my advice certainly would be to err on the side of caution when you're actually dealing against a effective class for an alter ego. So again, something like Black Grail, really nice. If you need charge and you need invuln pierce, something like Sweet Crystal is an option. It's available for you guys from the Rare Prism shop. It is 5 rare prisms per copy, so if you want an MLB, it's going to cost you a whopping 25 rare prisms, but it is a rather good CE. It's all attack scaling, 50% charge, and invuln pierce, something that again, she doesn't have in her kit. If you're lucky enough from one of the old events to have, basically from Kara no Kyokai, the K&K Tower event, to have Decapitating Bunny at MLB, this is also rather good when it's all attack scaling, quick up of 10%, and invuln pierce with no charge. It could be an option for you. Chocolate Heaven was the one we mentioned as well. This one's from an old Valentine's event. This one's also all attack scaling. It is 20% NP gain at MLB, 15% NP damage, and 15% quick performance up. So again, a really nice one if maybe something like Black Grail is certainly getting you the damage, but maybe not cutting it on the refund department. Chocolate Heaven or things like it can be really good for you. Traces of Christmas, as we mentioned, is an old welfare. This one is all attack scaling, 50% gauge, 10% NP gen, and 10% quick. So really a nice option for a 50% CE. And we do have from the newer event right now on NA's current Halloween event, we have Flowing Pool of Wine. This one is not all attack scaling, so that is its biggest issue, but it is a welfare CE from the event. You're guaranteed to get 5 copies of it, and it is a very similar effect. As you can see, 10% NP damage, 50% gauge, and 20% NP gain, even though it's not all attack scaling. So you might not want to invest in this CE, but it could be a at least option for you guys. And again, that's basically from this current Halloween event going on NA. So that is, again, going to be her in a nutshell in terms of CE options and refund. Now let's talk damage and compare that to everyone else. This is going to get a little tricky because, again, Khadroth has this whole scenario where she can turn herself into the additional class. So keep in mind that this is going to be self buffs only, aka this is Khadroth under her own power only. This is neutral damage numbers, so not effective against a class or anything like that. And this does not include things like craft essences, mystic codes, or again, buffs from other characters. This is just Khadroth with her own buffs. So you guys can see NP1 not really doing too hot with normal damage there. It's only 20k normal damage. If it's against the Sakura series, it bumps up to 26k. And once you switch into their class, you get that 53k. And if you manage to have both a Sakura series and a same class, you're getting up to a whopping 62. So it starts to get a whole lot better. In fact, I'm going to say for the majority of circumstances, you're really going to want to look at this. However, I need to caution all of you because nodes don't always play nice. That is to say, you might get a node where it's just, it's 3-3x and it's all sabers. But what if you have a split node? What do you do then? Because again, Khadroth is going to change into the class that you target. She will then be neutral to that class, and she will gain a 75% power mod against that class. She will not gain a 75% power mod against any other class. So that's going to be difficult. You're going to have to kind of pick and choose how you want to handle this. Maybe you don't pop the third skill until the final wave. Maybe you wait and delay the popping or use it early or something like that. It's just really going to depend on what your goals are and what the node structure is that you're facing. So this really is the number that you want to look at, but it may not always apply for every enemy. So just keep in mind, you could be dealing instead of 53k, only 20k, just depending. Now, obviously, as you start getting up there at NP levels, the scalability gets a lot better. We start looking at a whopping 103k neutral damage under her own power. That is nothing to sneeze at. That is certainly a solid number. Now let's talk Khadroth's actual numbers. This is going to be still neutral damage, but this is going to include things like mystic codes, craft essences, and obviously supporting cast. This is going to be 2 times Summer Scotty, Oberon, a level 100 Traces of Christmas, and a Neo plug suit. You're going to see right here at NP1 on wave 3. Obviously, it's going to ramp up as you go down the line here, and then the Oberon wave here, you get some really good damage. Against a Sakura face, it's slightly better. But if you transform into the class, boom, there you go. You're going to have some solid damage numbers. And again, this number here is, I believe, if you whiff on your debuffs. So just keep that in mind that obviously with Khadroth being so prominently debuff oriented, if you whiff those debuffs, it is not going to feel very good. So it is what it is. Oh, sorry. Yes, that is my bad. So this is not a whiff. This is basically your number in brackets is how much damage you would be dealing to enemies that didn't have the defense down. This is how much damage you'd be dealing to enemies that did have the defense down. So remember that defense down on skill 3, it's only for one enemy. So essentially you'd be dealing 262k neutral damage to maybe the high health enemy in the wave, and then only 200k to the other enemies that are present. So just keep in mind that will kind of matter depending on the situation. If you manage to have both effects, numbers get even better. And then certainly at something like NP2, we begin to shore things up a lot more. I think the thing to keep in mind is because of the nature of this character, you are going to be dealing a lot of neutral damage. So when we're normally talking about, like, let's say like an archer or something, we know we're going to be effective against sabers. Well, we'll display the numbers in neutral. You get to 2 times those numbers a lot. With her, with Khadroth, you're probably not going to get that a lot. So just keep in mind, these probably will be very close to your actual numbers that you'll be pumping, all things considered. Now, this is going to be, again, the 2-time Summer Scotty down here with Oberon, a level 100 Holy Night Supper instead of Traces. So basically a good 50% C, but it doesn't have those extra NP gain effects. Is going to need the extra overkill hits, but you can see damage numbers increase a little bit basically over the prior ones as you're getting a better damage C, but not as good of refund. Same thing here with the Sakura setup, the same class setup, and if you happen to have both Sakura class and same class. So definitely interesting numbers there. Now, if we manage to mix in something like a 0% CE like Chocolate Heaven, and this could obviously get better if you had something like Black Grail. Obviously, right here, looking at this is going to be utilizing someone like Nero Bride instead. This is not going to be your numbers with Oberon. So naturally, it doesn't look like it's better, and that's because it's not. If we don't have the Oberon setup, we're losing a lot of that wave 3 damage, though it does shore up certainly the earlier waves there. So it is something to keep in mind. We will compare here against Azumi no Isora. And this is going to be our newer alter ego that we got earlier in the year with the essential, like, I forget what the name was called. Was it the Water Temple collab? I don't even remember. But basically, they're another new AoE quick alter ego, and they also have decent performance. And you can see they're quite capable of pumping some good damage. It's not quite Tiamat numbers, but it is going to be something that'll actually be really nice for them. They get, again, the chaotic niche here, definitely helping shore them up. And certainly as you get to NP2, they get a lot better. They are a Black Grail looper. And this is where I'm going to say something like Khadroth drop, as we are displaying her without Black Grail. She's not going to stack up in damage in this regard. But you will be able to push the boundaries of her damage if you're using her in the right node, with the proper composition. Okay, does that mean these compositions are wrong? No, it just means these compositions are assuming that there is not a Sakura face present that you're facing for that extra charge, nor is it assuming that you're taking an extra Sakura face into the party to get extra charge. If you do those things, you will have a trade-off potentially. Again, if you're facing a Sakura face, there would be no trade-off. But if you're trying to bring an extra Sakura face into your party, that will get you more charge for Khadroth drop, but it will not necessarily be without a cost. That cost being it will cost you one of those extra supports potentially. So that's something you've got to consider, is how that's going to impact you. You might be able to do something where you manage to have a sort of sacrificial Khadroth drop or a sacrificial Sakura series in there to increase the charge temporarily, basically, for as you use that skill and then kind of get rid of them. But that's going to be a little bit more of an advanced concept and something I'm not going to really have the time to go over here. Still, it is going to be potentially possible depending on how you set things up. So keep in mind, there are numerous strategies you can employ to try and get more scalability. That's going to be difficult for us to display with the math numbers here. So that's why you're going to see, again, comparisons to units like Azumi here. They're not going to look good. Again, we've got Tai Sui here, who's going to be able to operate basically with a level 100 Black Grail himself and a double Castoria setup. His numbers are going to be really solid, particularly since he's a welfare and you have man attribute for him. And then Tiamat, who is obviously just going to end up being sort of the elephant in the room. You've got some just pretty crazy numbers out of her with a 2x Korean Sky of Light, Oberon, and level 100 Black Grail. She's just got some really, really solid capability there. So again, on paper, someone like Khadroth drop, not going to compare very well. To me, where Khadroth drop is really going to be strong is where you utilize her in a situation that there is a Sakura face that you're facing, or you manage to use her in a multi-damage dealer setup and try to go either supportless or only single support. I think in that regard, she's looking as a more like new age option rather than one of the more traditional double support setup options. That to me is where her true strength lies. That's how you should use her, is either as a multi-damage dealer setup, or if you want to use the traditional setup against an actual Sakura face. That's where she'll really shine. That's where she'll be really, really strong. I see that being her true niche. compared to other alter egos. Yes, she does have the capability to change into other classes. Yes, she can pump good damage off of that. This damage will not beat truly effective options in most cases due to the sort of inherent restrictions that she has, because her refund is not that solid, because you're going to have certain composition structure issues if you're trying to pump damage specifically on her. Yeah, a unit like Tiamat's gonna beat her. Yeah, a unit like Tai Sui's probably gonna beat her. Yeah, a actual effective unit, if you're, say, trying to transform her into, like, say, a knight class or something, like, let's say you're trying to transform her into an archer against an archer, a lancer is probably just going to be the better option. So it is what it is. I think she's going to really shine where the node structure is odd, where she can abuse it to her advantage, being able to kind of be neutral at times, maybe on weird waves, and then also be able to change into the class to get extra damage in other waves. I think that's where she will shine. It's going to require you guys to be a little bit smart, a little bit you guys to have the info of what the node structure is like, but I think she can be utilized effectively. However, I will say she is a niche unit. That is going to be one of her bigger issues, is can you get away with using her? Are you going to see people doing some crazy stuff composition-wise with her? Hell yes. But it's going to be one of those deals where a lot of the people that you'll see will be having very elaborate setups or very, very strong, robust accounts. It just will be that way. She's going to remind you a little bit, like I said, of someone like Doman in that regard. And again, we'll see. I think she could be a really, really strong unit. If you like Khadroth, you're going to find ways to use her effectively, and she'll be good for you. But she's not going to be a gotta have for the vast majority of players out there, nor will she be the strongest alter ego option in the majority of scenarios. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed this very deep analysis of Khadroth here. I know I got long-winded, but it is what it is. She's a very interesting unit with a very complex kit. So thank you guys for watching. Let me know which Ascension form of hers is your favorite and whether or not you'll be rolling, or if you're going to hold off for something like, say, Christmas and New Year's coming up, maybe an additional lotto. We'll just have to see when JP finally decides to give us one. But again, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you for the next one. All right, chat. Anything I got wrong? Anything I missed? Someone said you pointed out 50 rare prisms for Sweet Crystal. I think I said 25. Yes, the Meridian parts. Yeah, I'm sorry. This fucked me. The fact that they didn't try to hide this, oh god, that fucked me so bad. Because I literally was like going over her and like reading down the wiki here as I was doing it, and I went like, oh yeah! And once I read that, I kept saying the name. It's a costume anyways. Yeah, she literally has the actual Murian costume, which, Jesus Christ, that is terrifying. Also, kick W. Yeah, it happens. She's a fucking pixie? Oh, yes, she is. I mean, like, I don't know. She's got a complex kit. I don't want to call her bad. She's not a bad unit. And I feel like this, like we didn't do a good job here of showing the potential with, like, Black Grail. Because I do think she has that, and I think that's where the majority of people are really going to try to use her. They're going to try to use her in situations where they can get away with using Black Grail. Why? Because if you try to use her in a setup like this, she's really just not going to hold up to competition. So I think that's where people will actually do it. Like, if there is a Sakura series in the node, that's where people are going to use her. If there is a like multi-support setup that you can do and have her still remain competitive, people will do it. If there's a multi-damage dealer setup that you can do, or like you can put her into a double Khadroth drop setup and have her do work, people will do that. But yeah, I think that's really where I see her being used, is very similar to Doman in that regard. Does Kevin Durant have the Fae trait? Yes. Yes, he can jump quite high. Almost as if he can fly. The dual DPS comps I haven't done here. Yeah, and it's... I gotta be honest. We can't model a dual DPS comp, chat. Why? We can give you an example, but we can't model every possibility. There's too much. So it's just like... whatever. Is it worth rolling OG Scotty since I have neither Scotty on JP? Or is it just better to wait for Summer Scotty to come back? Yes, it's worth rolling OG Scotty. Even if you get Summer Scotty later on down the line, you won't regret having the original. Like, they are both usable, and there are times where having both is actually really nice. That's a node-dependent thing. Yep. Yeah, she is, and I'm going to say this. She is a niche unit. That is not a bad thing. However, we are very programmed at this point by this game to think that that's a bad thing, because we have so many units that are just extremely strong, right? They pair well together. Yeah. So with OG Scotty, you get quick crit. With Summer Scotty, you get Buster crit. And the majority of quick units usually have 4 of their cards are quick or buster. So this works out really well. Like, we talked about it with Khadroth drop, how weird it is for her to be double quick, double arts. It's a very rare kit type for quick units. You don't normally see double arts. Sometimes you see double buster, double quick. Sometimes you see triple quick. And one of each, but you don't normally see double arts. I think it's nice that we're getting cool, unique mechanics, even though they may not be generally applicable every time. Yeah, I mean, I did point this out, that the way that they coded this is just really fucking weird. Let me see if I have it open still. Yeah, here it is. So if you actually go in here and you actually look at this, right? You can see, like, okay, it's class change of 0 on self for 3 turns. That's kind of odd, right? And you come in here, you look at all this, blah, 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 blah. You get to the passive. Oh, hey. Oh. I just realized what that translated as. Yeah, I'm not saying this is accurate, but like, it's technically not wrong. Like, she's xenophobic. Not to use a gamer word. Yes, she is. So, but the way you can see that they coded this is not like, oh, she negates class effectiveness and adds a 75% power mod to whatever you switch to. No, they literally coded this as 75% to Saber, 75% to Archer, 75% to Lancer, 75% to Rider, 75% to Caster, 75% to Assassin. Literally down through everything. Did someone say Xenos? Filthy Xeno scum. Now, chat, I need somebody to make the meme of like, you know how we have like Janu with Doom Guy? I need somebody to make Khadroth drop with like with one of the fucking 40k Space Marines. like one of the Inquisition, right? Ready to purge the Xeno filth? What's the point of High Servant? High Servant's a how do I put this? It's like it's a unique thing usually to like CCC-esque people, and it's usually a sign of divinity. They have some form of divinity, right? But yeah, it's like, she may be the first high server that does not have any goddesses in her that you know of. But yeah, she doesn't have the divinity trait, so it is kind of weird. Dr. Deus, thank you for the 17. How you doing today? Oh, sorry, not the 17. 17's in your name. For the 38. My brain is doing all sorts of things tonight. I'm sorry, chat. It was originally a thing BB created, yeah. Which is weird because, and I don't want to get like into spoiler lore, but my understanding is Khadroth is one of the Sakura 5, aka she's one of the parts of BB, and usually the parts of BB all are like carved out of her and they all have a goddess. So I thought Khadroth did have a goddess, but I don't know like how FGO has implemented her relative to like the extra universe. It's here in lore section. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Like I said, I don't need the spoiler. I'm surprised that she doesn't actually have the trait. So, Goddess of Lollies, I guess. Yeah, I still find not that I want to see her in the swimsuit, but I still find the banana here like fucking hilarious. But I don't know. Khadroth is, like I said, I feel like if you look at her and you look at her damage numbers in a traditional comp, you're going to think she's bad. And that's exactly why I'm not saying that. Because she is one of those where it's just going to be very difficult for people to actually like on paper show how strong she is. She's just going to be strong when she is showcased. When you pull her out in the right scenario, you're going to be like, oh, wow. How did that happen? And it's just going to be good, right? Because again, like I said, a double Khadroth comp means both of the Khadroths can charge literally to 100%. So what you could have is you could have like basically KD1, KD2, and then have like a rotating Scotty setup where like basically Scotty 2 comes in from the back line replacing Scotty 1, and you could have like Khadroth 1 handle wave 1 and then just like rotate her out, and then you could literally like kind of just no buffs, like just naked NP, right? And then with Khadroth number 2, you put all the Scotty buffs on her, and so she charged up to 100% herself. You rotate the Scotties through, and basically you're brute forcing it. You don't even care about refund. So something like that should actually be doable. Yeah, you could also use Oberon as well if you wanted. And all enemies will have 100% quick down, right? Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Like she reminds me a lot of Doman in that regard. And I think most people aren't going to catch on to that. Most people aren't going to pick up on the actual like similarity there. But yes, she is alter ego Doman 2.0. Not top of the chart equal so bad. Right. Yeah. You're going to see some whale sit there and just be like, ha, go burr. Buff reviews next. Yeah, we'll go over that now. Sorry, I was having to give my voice a little bit of a rest there. Okay. So we got 3 buffs today, which are kind of wild, honestly. Okay, we did actually get them. We'll go down the line. We got Yagyu, then Emiya, and then some caster. And I don't remember which. So Yagyu's been an interesting one because he's always been a little bit more of a challenge unit. For a long time when Yagyu came out, he was a unit that was, how do I put this? Like, basically, Lancelot was already in the game by the time Yagyu came out. Lancelot was permanent. Lancelot was just this crit, like, looping monster. He never really did that much NP damage, but he was always great in terms of just sustain and keeping going and just buzzsawing people to death. Lancelot's biggest issue was, again, that higher end of NP damage, and he had no survivability. So in comes Yagyu. Yagyu doesn't have nearly the repeatability of damage output that someone like Lancelot has. But Yagyu does more MP damage, and Yagyu has some built-in survival in his kit, basically off the second skill here. So there was this period of time where after Yagyu comes into the game, he's just kind of solid, and he's just kind of this better damage option than Lancelot if you just need some good one-shot damage. Problem is everything in Yagyu's kit is one turn, and that's, honest to God, like, still to this day, one of his biggest demerits. Is just, in a world full of 3-turn durations, Yagyu chooses to have 1-turn duration. It's certainly an issue because it doesn't allow him to kind of keep going. He's very much boom and burst, or boom and bust rather, and ends up kind of just like he'll pump damage and then he'll flatline for a little bit. So that's kind of always been his biggest issue. And we've seen them kind of try to address that. You can see he did get the upgrade to his second skill here that gave him at least a little bit more crit damage on top of it. So they're trying to like kind of parallel him a little bit to Lancelot, but everything's still that 1-turn duration. And that's, again, going to be one of his biggest issues. I really want them to address the third skill here. I want them to give him NP gen of 3 turns because, yeah, it's 50%, but it's nothing crazy. But it is what it is. So they've now rolled in and they've actually given him finally an NP interlude, which he did need because Lancelot himself has had an NP interlude. So at that point, Lancelot was just more damage, more consistency. And again, the only thing that Lancelot lacked was survivability. But I mean, we've got Castoria in the game at this point. You don't really care too much about survivability in an arts comp because you have it in spades. So that was certainly the issue, is he was getting out damaged and basically out trumped in every single way. So they've come back in and they've said, okay, let's give Yagyu an NP interlude. And he needed it. You can see his NP was just, it dealt damage to one enemy and reduced their attack for 3 turns. And boom, they come in and they give him the standard NP interlude amount. It now also reduces their arts resist by 20% for 3 turns. So again, you can see they're picking up on what I have been telling them for years. Not that they listen, but at least not to me. But you can see, yeah, there you go. Hey, now we've realized that he needs 3-turn durations, especially for getting back to another NP. This is going to help boost damage over time. It's going to help get him there. It is a debuff, so he's not going to carry this through additional waves. But if you're in a challenge scenario where you probably should be using Yagyu at that point, then again, yeah, this is going to be nice because he's going to be going up against that same enemy. He'll have the potential ability to stack this if he gets back to it again. And it's just going to increase damage and increase refund as a result of that. But not only do we get these 2 things, but we also get Invuln Pierce, and this is actually really nice. It's sneakily nice for him because again, Hoku Saber doesn't have it, Lancelot doesn't have it, so really you have to go into the SSRs to get something like Invuln Pierce. You're looking at like Dioscuri at that point, so him having Invuln Pierce on his NP attached to it's really going to be nice. It's going to allow him to kind of carve up enemies and give him this niche that maybe some of his other competitors don't necessarily have. So I do really, really like this. Go ahead and take a look at Yagyu's actual damage numbers now. Now, again, I'm not, like I said, I didn't ask Avalon for comparison numbers. We don't really need it. I can already tell you he's going to be stronger than Lancelot in that regard. Again, we're not going to look necessarily even at a 3-turn, but you can see this is going to be 2 times Castoria with a level 100 Ocean Flyer. So if you did need to go the distance, it is going to be a thing. And you can kind of see here the amount of damage output that you have. Although I got to ask, I assume this is pre-buff and this is post-buff. So you can see, again, we do have a nice, like, almost 100k bump up in damage. That's just solid. So when you start adding that, you start adding the arts down, you start adding the Invuln Pierce, Yagyu's in a lot more usable and better situation. Still want to see him get some upgrades to some of those skill durations, but this is solid. This puts him in a much, much better place. He'll feel a lot more usable to you guys nowadays, because to me, Yagyu is a very dated unit at this point in time in the game, so I certainly enjoy seeing him finally get at least some attention that'll help him. Top was pre-buff? Okay, yeah. That's like I said, that's what I assumed to be the case. But yeah, so that's Yagyu's buff. It's just a solid buff. It's all around good. Now we have Emiya. So it's difficult to talk about Emiya without talking about how many upgrades Emiya has had. You can see he has had literally 2 upgrades to his 3rd skill, an upgrade to his 2nd skill, an upgrade to his 1st skill now, and also an NP interlude that basically ended up giving him the ability. Well, sorry, he just had an NP interlude. His 3rd skill was the one that gave him the ability to switch types. So he's had a ton of buffs, right? He's literally had, let's see, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. Okay. So he's had 5. He hasn't had 6. But that's a ton. That I think ties him for the most in the game, if not the most. I'm trying to remember if 5 was our current record, or if it was 4, because I know units like MHX have had like 4 as well. But I'm trying to remember if anyone's had 5. 5 is the record now. Okay, yeah. So it's kind of nutty. I'm okay with Emiya getting an upgrade to this 1st skill. This 1st skill was okay. Like, it wasn't like amazing. It wasn't bad, but it's eye of the mind true. We all know Emiya. If we follow the lore, we all know he's supposed to have Ro IS. It is a thing that he has. It's obviously kind of a trump card that he can pull out, but they haven't given it to him. And it's really interesting to see that they upgraded the skill and they didn't give it to him. So I don't know what that would look like. It'd probably be a multi-turn evasion at that point or something, with how this game likes to translate that sort of lore. But I don't know. But he certainly could have used it. So they didn't touch that aspect of the kit. Instead, they increased the amount of defense that he gets for 3 turns to 30%. Because, I mean, let's be honest, it was at 18%, which is just an odd amount. So they increased it to a more even, sizable number, so you'll actually feel it a little bit better. I'm okay with that. Then they do something that to me is kind of beyond the pale. I gotta be honest, like, Emiya was already in a very good place for a 4-star. He was already somebody that was really, really capable. And what I suspect that this buff is I suspect that this buff is meant to help him given his situation. And what do I mean by that situation? I mean, Emiya's buff to his 3rd skill is the situation that I'm talking about. So it originally started as a 1-turn arts buff on a unit that has a Buster NP. It's not a good skill. It gets changed to being a tricolor buff, so now it impacts his NP. This definitely helped it out. This is a sizable buff. They gave him a 40% steroid out of nowhere. This is one of the bigger buffs that you'll see in the game, but it's still only 1-turn duration. They come in and they say, hey, you know what? Not only are we going to increase all of these now to 50%, we're also going to allow him to change his NP type, basically to choose between either Buster or Arts for 1 turn. Nice. This is really good. The problem with this is this is not a sustainable thing because it's only the 1-turn duration. So he can't just set himself to Arts and forget it. This is basically a 1-turn like super boost to this man's refund because he's got a 10-hit NP. So changing it to Arts means you've got a 10-hit Arts NP, which his NP gain rate is not bad. It's 0.51. You know, you start seeing hit counts like that on other units, and you usually start to see the NP charge attack rate tank, or they get a special unique one based off of their NP alone. So they have an NP charge attack rate for their cards and a different one for their NP. What do I mean by that? Let me show you guys real quick here an example. Probably the best immediate example that I can give you guys is Gilgamesh Caster. At least he's AoE. Carry has also got it, but he's single target. So Gilgamesh Caster has a 0.32 NP charge attack rate, which is abysmal. But this is largely due to the fact that the man has 3 5-hit arts cards. Yeah, they're kind of serious. But the NP gain rate is 16%. It is even lower. So it's cut in half. Why? Because this man also has a 10-hit arts NP. So that's why. It's kind of surprising that then with Emiya that they didn't change this, but it would have been difficult probably for them to code. And so this is what happens. He changes to arts for one turn, and he usually refunds 300% when it happens because he's just so uncapped at that point for that one turn. Problem with this is, again, you can't keep doing this, and the only way to keep doing this usually is to use somebody like Koyanskaya. Now, I haven't evaluated him with the 5th append. I probably need to a little bit more here, but this is an interesting thing to denote nonetheless, that if you're using Koyanskaya with him, you are buffing him as Buster. That's nice, but it means that if you shift him to arts, you're not getting that steroid affecting you then, which means that his damage really will tank in certain situations, in certain setups. And usually how it ends up rolling out is you don't use him as arts for turn 3, you use it as turn 2 or turn 1. So that way he can get back to Buster and get the Buster buff for the final wave. The problem is, well, yeah, you got the Buster up buff there. You use this man's 50% steroid on a prior turn. So you don't have it for turn 3. That's what this is kind of coming in for. They're giving him a 3-turn steroid, a 3-turn 30% attack up. So this seems insane at first glance, but you start to think about it in an actual composition structure, and you start to go, yeah, he kind of did need this, particularly if you didn't have something like NP5 of the guy, right? So I get it. But again, I think we could say, I mean, it was still already in a good situation, so he really didn't need that. What do I consider to be beyond the pale? What is this? Gains critical stars. Oh, that's kind of innocuous. Normally when we gain critical stars, it's not that much. How much does he gain? 5? 10? Heck, maybe even 15. Be overzealous here. 40! What? Huh? This man gains practically a full freaking loadout of stars. Why? He does not need it. Like, this is just a power creep thing to me. Like, you could have given him 10, 15 stars. It would have been nice. It would have been a good upgrade. We would have been like, ah, yeah, I can see how he needs this. This is all nice. Why did you give him 40? He's already in a Koyanskaya setup most of the time. Why does he need 40? Like, what the shit? Those stars are actually swords. Yeah. So like I said, at this point, I look at this buff and I go, not only did Emiya not need this, I feel really bad for other 4-star archers after this buff. Emiya has gotten so much attention. He has gotten taken care of in every possible way, it feels like. There's still some things I'd like to change about the man's kit, but I get that they're trying to make him unique. But, like, what the crap, right? What's Wolfgang have in stars? So, Mozart has 50 stars. Mozart's also a 1-star, and that's also Mozart's intended use. So, like, yeah, is it absurd for him to have 40? Not really. Not if you consider things in the grand scheme of things compared to every other unit in the game. It's not insane. What's insane about it is he didn't need it. He's already going to be in a Buster comp a good chunk of the time, and Buster comps don't really need stars because they manufacture them. So having 40 on command, like I said, you could have given the man 10 stars and it would have been fine. It would have been good. Giving him 40 is like, what the fuck are you smoking? Like, did you actually think about this? This man is a star engine in and of himself now. And again, this is a 6-turn cooldown, chat. You're getting back to this in a conventional 3-turn setup. You're getting 40 stars on turn 1 and turn 3. So this is kind of like, what the shit? Now, I got to think about this, though, too, because, again, this is a 5-turn. So if we had the 5th append, this goes down to 4 turns. How do we do this? Because I'm trying to remember actual Emia composition here. Emia normally goes, what is it, double Koyan right at the beginning or something like that. So like I think you basically pop all of his shit turn one, you convert him into arts, and double Koyan him, and then I think at that point you would have the projection back basically for that second turn. You already do Black Grail, then you got Arts Buster. Oh. If the pen is good for him. If the pen is really good for him. He can do this now. He couldn't do this before. You can do projection on turn 1 and projection on turn 3, and it should work. Well, and getting the cooldown reduction to work's one thing. Getting the charge to work's another. He doesn't have actual charge built into his kit, so he kind of wants to go, because this is again like how I'm thinking about this is Arts Buster, right? Or sorry, Arts Buster. So you have the projection on turns 1 and 3. This actually gets you the projection on turn 3. The problem is the refund here is useless, so you're only getting the refund basically back to full on this turn, which you're basically in a conventional setup going to need to do things like how do I put this? Like you're going to end up getting like basically from the arts on turn 1, you're going to need to charge him 100% there with like double Castoria. That's going to get him up to his NP if you're using something like Black Grail. He's then going to refund, get back to 100% based off of you using the projection on that turn. He'll be able to NP again as Buster that turn. The only problem is he gets no refund off of that, so he goes to 0 then on turn 3. So if you want to do arts again, you need another 100% charge, and at best you're looking at Oberon with 70% or another Koyan there realistically is what you'd have to use because you need the cooldown reduction. You're only going to get 50% there, so I don't think Black Grail is an option for something like this, but you can now do this with something like a 50% C. Wait, can I make that work even better? Nope. Arts Buster with 5th pin. Yeah, you could definitely do something like that. The thing about this is, and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get him projection on turn 3. Because projection is a 50% steroid. It's huge for him. If he doesn't have projection, oof, in terms of damage output. Again, that's where this attack up comes from. So I'm just trying to see if I can beat the system a little bit here. Because again, yeah, you can double pop projection on turns 1 and 2, basically, and then not have it on turn 3, but then you're like, what the fuck? Right? Like you've used your major steroid on the first 2 turns of the node, but not on the 3rd turn. So like you can do that. Is it going to be good for you? No, probably not. Simultaneously, in that sort of environment, I'm not sure how well. Okay, I found another one. It's not arts though. This is friggin' dumb. So this is single Koyenskaya double Oberon. So he's arts wave 1 and then Buster. That uses 5th append, that uses his mana loading unlocked. And that works. Those require 2nd and 5th append. It's double Oberon, Koyenskaya, and it's Arts Buster, and it's a Black Grail loop. Yeah, I can improve it, but it's just I was trying to get it to work. Wait, what? Yeah, there you go. See, chat, I can smell normally when I can make something like this work, and I'm like, I feel like I'm onto something, and that's why. Okay, so let me explain. This is Koyenskaya double Oberon. This is 2nd and 5th append. You don't need the 2nd append leveled. You just need it unlocked. This is for your 3 turns. So turn 1, turn 2, and turn 3. We are going to use an Arts NP, a Buster NP, and a Buster NP. Turn 1, we literally will start him out. So these are your 3 turns here. Turn 1, you're going to start him out with a 10% charge from his unlocked mana loading. You're going to utilize basically double Oberon. Now this is going to be spicy, but this is a theoretical thing. Okay? Oh. No. Tell you what, we'll do this a better way. Because this will absolutely improve damage. This doesn't change anything that I said. It just basically what I was about to say. I realized I was going to say it wrong. So basically, okay. For turn 1, we're going to start him out with 10% charge. We're going to pop the projection, change him to arts. We're going to, in fact, pop all of his skills if you want, right? We're going to utilize a Koyenskaya right there. Going to go ahead, pop that, get the cooldowns reduced. Okay? You got the cooldown reduction from the 5th append. You got the cooldown reduction from the Koyenskaya. Then we're going to rotate out that Koyenskaya, bring in the other Oberon. We're going to use both Oberon 20%. That's going to bring him up to full. He's going to fire off the NP. He's going to refund 100% from the Arts NP. We hope, right? So turn 2, we don't do anything. His NP defaults back to Buster. He still has a Koyenskaya Buster buff. Fire off the NP again. Turn 3, you're now going to use both the remaining Oberon 50% skills. You're also going to get both their Buster ups. And you're going to go ham on turn 3. So that's a theoretical 3-turn. And I call it theoretical because he needs this 100%. But it works. How does the charge work? Allow me. So, again, this turn, this is a 5-turn cooldown skill. If you have the 4th append, it becomes a 4-turn cooldown skill instead. 4-turn cooldown skill with a single Koyenskaya works with the new 5th append. If you guys remember my notes, my rules that I came up with for the 5th append, that is one of them. And I very quickly picked up on that, seeing that 5 cooldown there. So I said, okay, a 4-turn cooldown means I can use single Koyenskaya. Why? Well, here's the normal progression. As you use the skill, it goes on a 4-turn cooldown. Turn 2, it's on a 3-turn cooldown. Turn 3, it is on a 2-turn cooldown remaining, right? However, if we're using a single Koyenskaya, then it becomes 4 turns. We're then going to use the Koyenskaya, giving it -2 right there. So this basically becomes 2 turns instead, okay? Then on the 2nd turn, that 2-turn cooldown's reduced to 1, and on the 3rd turn, it's 0 now, so you can pop it again. Capiche? Everyone get that? How many hits overkill would he need in your opinion? I don't know. One of the ways that I see people do EMEA comps is a lot of the times they'll pop something like they'll do like double Koyan and Castoria. They'll give him like an arts buff or something like that to help that refund. It's certainly not good for wave 3 damage, but it can be really nice for helping the refund out. I'm not sure something like that'll actually work, right? Especially for something like this, because the whole reason to taking double Oberon is you're trying to leverage more damage for that final wave, and yeah, you might end up in a bad situation. So that need 27 out of 30 overkill hits. We can do it. We have the technology. Yeah, that'd definitely be bad. But yeah, so okay, so if it's that way, it's not really that feasible, right? Like, but it is something where it's like, yes, there is potential for that to occur. I don't know, right? You might need some sort of extenuating circumstances for something like that. Maybe, and I'll give you guys an example of this. Now imagine the node structure is not 3-3x. Now imagine the node structure is like 6-1x. It works. Why? Because he's got 6 enemies. So it's like you're going to need way less overkill hits against 6 enemies as an arts unit. And a single enemy who gives a fuck, you're buster for that turn. So, like, it really, at that point, a 6xx node, that would work in theory. But casters would be 12 out of 30 if you want a neutral loop. Yeah. And that's probably doable, right? Especially with a Black Grail. I guess the only option is just using a Sacrifice Servant for wave 1. I mean, you could. That would certainly be it. But at that point, if you're using a Sacrifice Servant, you don't care about cooldown reduction then. Because you're just not... Like, you don't need to double pop your skills and stuff. The interesting part about this is he would not get back to either his first or his second skill in that proposed solution. So you would only get one use out of them. Because you're using single Koyan Skya. Yeah, that's... Welcome to Big Brain Math with Catch. And like I said, this is what I do a lot of the times whenever we get one of these new systems, is I just sit there and I hammer these out for every individual servant. And I hadn't done it really with EMEA because I knew EMEA didn't have a charge skill, and I'm like, well, where I came up with the majority of the rules were for units that had charge skills, because I knew that they were going to be the ones that were most impacted. Someone like EMEA, there's always the possibility that like the skill cooldown rules come into effect for them. I just didn't bother to go through every single possible iteration of that because there's so many units like that in the game. My brain ain't braining anymore. Yeah, mine'll stop working here shortly. Okay, let's talk about the last buff. I'm sorry it took me so long to get to this. I got caught up on him. The G-Man, the G-Spot. Okay, we've got watch out below. It's Geronimo. So I don't need to say a lot about Geronimo, chat. Y'all know him. He's infamous. He's a meme at this point. Thing is, we often get like discussions like whenever I bring up who is the worst unit in the game, somebody always mentions Geronimo. They are entirely wrong. Geronimo is not even close to one of the worst units in the game. Geronimo is a great unit for what he is. The problem is, Geronimo has the most boring kit in the game. He has literally skills that are just all the freaking same, right? Like, one turn of card type up for 50% on a 5-turn cooldown. That's it. He's never been a bad unit. His NP damage has been pretty solid, especially since his buff, and his NP actually heals. So it's definitely a nice thing that a lot of people overlook about this. So he's a loopable healer that deals damage. Now, I know what you're thinking. Loopable? What? Cat, he has a one-hit NP. Yes, I said that. I said loopable, chat. Remember, in order to 3-turn in this game, all you need is 10% charge. Geronimo doesn't have charge, but he does have an arts NP. And we can get 10% refund off of that. Which means we can make him 3-turn. Is that going to be good? Is it going to be solid numbers? Fuck no, it's not. But it's doable. So It is something. He's certainly a far stretch from one of the worst units in the game because of that. So, and again, his NP damage in a properly like buffed scenario, Geronimo actually does good NP damage. It's actually been a thing for him. Hey, thanks for the raid, Fox. Welcome, everybody. We are just going over the G-Man. I've gone over Khadroth drop. We've talked about the Emiya and the Yagyu buffs, and now we're finally rounding things out with Geronimo. But how's it going, everybody? Thank you for the raid. Welcome. You guys never met me. My name's Khadroth. I stream FGO very frequently, almost every night, and basically, yeah, we're talking about the new JP content at the moment. Geronimo can actually loop with Ocean Flyer. Yeah, his refund's not like the worst, considering he has a single hit MP. But it is what it is. We've seen this before as well, because like for those of you guys that'll remember, right? Originally we started out where like Void Shiki couldn't loop. Then Void Shiki could loop with like a K-scope. And then Void Shiki could loop from 50%. And now Void Shiki loops from 0. So it's like, yeah, G-Man's basically at the Ocean Flyer standpoint. He's not at 0, but he actually can loop. So it's kind of funny. I hired the Bargu to stare at me. I see. How was stream, bud? Just doing the events today? I see. How? It just is what it is. And like, that's why I've said before. So it's like every time we get this discussion of like who the worst unit in the game is, somebody always brings up Geronimo. Geronimo's not that bad. He's actually a fairly solid unit for what he is, especially as a 3-star. He's never going to be doing like Castor Coup levels of damage, but at, you know, honestly, outside of Castor Coup, I believe, and I'd have to double check this, but I believe Geronimo is the second highest. I think the only other person that would rival him is, it might be a Vika Braun now. I don't remember, but I remember it used to be Babbage. So I'd have to double check that. But again, like it's one of those deals where it's like his damage is still pretty solid. The issue with him has always been and always will be this god awful atrocious kit. And that is what got the upgrade. And chat, when I'm right, I'm right. And I get to finally gloat. I get to say it. This is exactly the change that I said that they needed to make to this unit. And doubly so, I've pointed this out before. I'm going to point it out again that we did not have any true low-star quick support. That's why I said I found the upgrade to Asclepius rather tone deaf, because they upgraded him and they made him yet another arts support. And I was like, why? Asclepius didn't really have an aspect. He was great at what he was. Why did you give him an arts buff? That felt really weird to me. And I said, if anything, they should have actually given him a quick buff. And that's low-key what we kind of have seen over time, is they just really, for whatever reason, give quick the short end of the stick. Thankfully, we actually get an upgrade to Geronimo's quick skill. Now, I'm going to be real with y'all for a second. It's kind of fucked up that they did this to my man. And the reason why it's kind of fucked up is because Geronimo is an arts unit. If they buffed any skill on him first, it should have been the arts buff. It should have actually been this one. But it is what it is, right? Still, I've said for a while that one of the like coolest and best things they could have actually done with Geronimo, because his kit was so stale, so boring, was to just take these skills and make them targetable. That is what happens here. They take Geronimo's quick buff and they make it a targetable skill instead. So he can still use it on himself, but he can also use it on an ally. It's still 50% up. Now it's also going to reduce their skill cooldown by 1. That's kind of interesting. We had an interesting discussion earlier that, like, what if they do this same buff to all 3 skills? Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh my god, that's boring as all crap. And you're right, it is. Oh, Sorry, blocking the camera there. So like, it's boring as all crap if they do that. However, there's also some interesting thing about that. Now imagine every skill becomes targetable. And now imagine every skill has a skill cooldown reduction. And you start going like, oh my god, he can reduce skill cooldowns by 3. Yeah, and you'd start being like, oh shit, he might actually become meta. I don't think they'll do that, but it is an interesting like food for thought there, that like something that seems relatively innocuous and underwhelming could actually end up becoming rather strong if they did that. So that's an interesting idea to munch on for a little bit here. But yeah, so they do this. I'm not going to say this is the best buff ever. It's not, chat. Let's be real. It's a okay buff. I do like that they made it targetable. It is what I wanted them to do. But they screwed the pooch in one way, and I think it's pretty obvious that, like, why and how that is. This naturally is going to make it difficult to actually be useful. I mean, it's going to be good for, like, some one-shot stuff. It's the same way that, like, you'll see with a unit like Sherlock, like with sorry, not Moriarty, with Mozart, right? With Mozart, with Sherlock, they also only have 1 turn duration. So it's not like absurd that this is 1 turn. However, it's not like Quick has a shit ton of other options. So unless they have more robust plans in the future for Quick, this would have been really nice if it was at least 3 turns. A 3-turn 50% steroid on a 3-star is a bit much, so I can understand why they wouldn't do it, but as it stands, you're not going to loop with this. Like, you could throw this on somebody for some additional extra, like, wave 3 damage, or maybe a little bit extra refund on wave 2 if you're worried, but this is not going to be a, like, use it and lose it, like, set it and forget it type thing. This is just going to be a one-off. So that's going to make it kind of rough, right? And maybe 3 times 3 turns. That might have actually been a decent way to limit it, right? But that is going to be one of the issues that I see and foresee with this. If they continue to buff Geronimo in this way, this will be a concern. Now, let me state this too, because I had this discussion in VIP before stream. I was talking with Avalon about it, but like, one of the things that I'm going to say on this, and hear me out, right? Because I know you guys are thinking, it is year 9. And we have finally gotten an upgrade to Geronimo's 3rd skill. How long will it take us until we get the upgrade to the 2nd and the 1st skill? Are we going to be looking at year 27 of the game before we finally see these? No, you're not. Hear me out. Here's why. I think it took the developers 9 years to figure out what the fuck they wanted to do with Geronimo. I think now they know. Now they're acting on it. I don't think it'll take you like forever to see these other 2 buffs. I'm not saying you're getting another buff right around the corner, but I am going to say I don't think you're going to expect it to go too much longer before you see another buff to Geronimo. We're talking 1, maybe 2 years, right? Like, I do think they're going to start buffing Geronimo now, because I think now they know what they would like to do with him. I think before, they didn't know what to do with him. They were like, while we could point at this and say like, hey, yeah, why didn't you make his skills targetable? I'm sure there were shifting things behind the scenes. They knew what units were upcoming and like who was going to be a possibility. And I think they weren't sure really where to fit him in and how to handle him. I think now they are. Now they've figured that out. They have a plan for him. And now we'll start to see them slowly work on him. So I'll believe it when I see it. Yeah. Yeah. Again, feel free to remain a skeptic. I'm not telling you to like believe in the devs and assume that we're getting more buffs for Geronimo. I'm just going to say, I don't think it'll take like forever to see an additional upgrade to him. Theo didn't want it because not good money for that kind of unit. Yeah, I mean, like, I think that's always been some of the issue is we definitely see a lot more of buffs towards the 4 and 5 star units because that's where the gotcha is. And I don't blame them for that. I think that's a smart strategy on their part. But I would still like to see them, buff units overall. I don't think it takes that big of a brain to sit here and figure out a buff. Again, you guys have seen me. I can go through the whole roster. I can tell you exactly what every single unit in the game needs. It's not a difficult thing. Would I be right on every single unit? No, probably not. But I can definitely say that it would probably leave the game in a better place, and it would end up balancing things out a lot more. That being said, balance is an ever-shifting time scale. It's an ever-shifting thing. It does not exist at any like balance exists at this singular moment in time, but there will always be imbalance. You will never have a perfectly balanced game because the second you buff Geronimo, somebody else goes, why didn't I get the buff? Now I have slipped further down. Actually, I'd say this is normally the way players think. The reality is there's no actual downward slip. It's just a case of maybe you are here and the other unit is here and then the other unit goes here. So it's not that this unit got any worse. It's just that this unit got better in comparison. Still waiting for upgrades for Medea and Medusa. I would love to see Medusa turn into a proper looper. She can 3-turn right now, but I'd love to see her get a little bit more help in that regard. Medea just kind of needs a damage upgrade at this point. And the only issue that I've said with Medea is if you buff Medea, you put pressure on the 4-star casters because our 4-star casters are not exactly the most damage dealing bunch. So it's also just weird. The dude in story who was being support had only selfish skills and then his NP gave party stuff. Yeah, Geronimo, like I said, Geronimo's not a bad unit. He's just a unit that really needed to receive some love, I feel like. And they figured out how to buff my girl, Summer Marie. Oh, you want me to tell you how to buff Summer Marie? Because there's Summer Marie doesn't need a specific solution. She's not a bad unit. Her issues are damage and refund. And they can go about that however they want. There are numerous solutions to those issues. Is the Hakuno rate up only available if you finish the story? Ooh, that is a good question. I believe so. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you can only do that rate up if you finished Ordeal Call 3. And again, to be clear here, let me quickly show this. I think we're still on JP. Yep. So there is obviously the Khadroth drop gotcha. There's the 30 million download campaign still going on. There is the normal story gotcha, right? However, normally if you want to roll the FP pool, you move left. I actually don't know what that pop-up was right there. However, chat, this is again the Khadroth drop gotcha. This is your FP gotcha. This is the rate up for Hakuno. It is a separate FP gotcha, specifically with an increased rate for whichever Hakuno you chose. So it is different from the original FP gotcha. Don't confuse it. If you want the Hakuno increased rate up, roll this one. This is the first time we've ever had 2 FP gotchas. Yeah, it's only the one that you choose. They have said that you'll have an opportunity to acquire the other one at a later point in time, but I assume that's going to be like Evocation Festival or the main interlude, like whenever that happens. Because we do know that they're main interluding Ordeal Call 3. You get 2 freebie FP dailies with this too. That's true. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. You can literally roll both here. Which is funny because I think I already have NP2 or NP3 of Hakuno. Because like I said, when the hurricane was barreling down on me, I had nothing else to do, so I just sat there and I rolled out my FP and I got my grail casting done for the month. So it is what it is. But yeah, you can use this to get even more FP on a day-to-day basis. So where do you choose the Hakuno after you complete story? It's really funny seeing Hakuno female replace Corday. Yeah, it's like low-key, that's all they did, right? Like, you look at that, you're like, oh, hey, it's the same thing. And you're like, wait a minute. It's also kind of funny because they have, like, low-key the same head tilt. So you're like, wait a minute. This just is, like, the same thing, kind of. It's not the exact same profile, but it's very close. I rolled 500k FP and didn't get anything. Yeah, okay, so my understanding, chat, is, again, this is still a 4-star, and basically, it is 3 times the normal rate for a 4-star. They're also the only 4-star available on this gacha. So, like, if you roll this one, you still have Habitrot and Lily that can appear. Whereas if you roll this one, this is only going to be Hakuno that can appear for a 4-star. Okay? Now, here's the thing I'm also going to tell you, though. Your 4-star rate's still crap. What do I mean? I think the average rate up for a Angry Mango is 2 million per. 2 million FP per. Okay? Whereas I think a 4-star is like, I want to say it's like 400 or 500,000 per. Something like that. So if you have 3 times this rate, it's like, okay, it's still gonna be something like 125 to 150k per. Like, I'm not saying that that's bad. I'm saying that that is a sizable enough amount that there's still gonna be wild variance with that, right? Like, there is still gonna be quite a bit of like, hey, yeah, I could roll 500k and never see one. It's absolutely possible. I think the average for 4-stars is 1%. Yeah. Meanwhile, I got NP2 Angry Mango and 200k when he first came out in NA. Oh, I have a story on that one. So I didn't get my first Angry Mango until I think it was 18 million FP. Somewhere around that number. I'm not even joking. Since then, I have managed to get like, God, I think I'm on like NP 25 of him or something. So like, when you're dealing with such low percentiles, there is a lot of like wild variance in RNG that you can have. Because it's not like, oh, hey, I have rolled 2 million FP. I am now due for an Angry Mango. You think that, but each roll is individual. So like, it's not like, oh, you hit the 2 million mark, now you're given a free Angry Mango. No, it's just straight up like you can keep going for forever and just never see one. That is just the average. And you can be the outlier. So you still can't 120 and all 5 of Pins Angry Mango? No, I can. Because, oh, maybe not all 5. I'd have to think about that. But like, again, Angry Mango. So Angry Mango costs like a 2-star, yields rewards like a 5-star, but is a 0-star. So party cost is as if he's a 2-star. Rewards in terms of like bonding him and coins are as if he's a 4-star. And his actual true star rating is 0. And this is really funny because I can explain this to you in another way, right? I think it's... Oh, okay. I was going to say, I thought it was relogging me for a second there. But... Oh, I don't know if I can show it on this. Yeah, I don't think I can. Let me go back to NA real fast. This is an interesting thing. If you go... Because I haven't done my NA grail casting yet. If you go into grail casting, for instance, right? And you say, I want to filter this by rarities, right? Do you go, okay, I want to filter this by 1 stars. You'll see all your 1 stars. You go, okay, I want to filter this by 2 stars. You'll see all your 2 stars. And so on. If you activate every single star, you will see all of your units, save 1. There is no Angry Mango here. Because if you use any rarity filter, Angry Mango will not appear. Why? Because Angry Mango is a 0 star. He cannot appear because none of your rarity listings are 0. This is not a pickable category, is 0. So he will not appear for that reason. He technically has no rarity, exactly. So you will only see Angry Mango if you have no rarity filter selected. And I've got to find him here real quick. Actually, it'll probably be easier if I filter this by, wait, what's Mango? Yeah, Avenger. Wait, now I'm confused. Why am I still not seeing Mango? I don't know. This shit's weird. I think if I try to filter for him, I get nothing. It could also be the case that I may not have actually gotten Mango coins on an A. Yeah, like, or I may have already burned them. I don't know. Mango is one of those. I don't save the coins for him. I'm sorry. Mango-less behavior, yes. Okay, chat. That's gonna be it for me tonight. Let me see who all is on, who all we can give some love to. I'm gonna send you guys over to Mr. Ivy. I haven't gotten to raid the Gacha Gurus in a moment. Let me go send them some love. And again, I'll probably be back tomorrow. I don't know what we'll be doing. I still got more stuff. I was hoping to get to more Metaphor tonight, but we didn't get to it. So maybe tomorrow we'll do more Metaphor and FGO. Like I said, still going to be trying to work on the Lotto guide in the meantime. So I'll be talking with Avalon about that. But again, hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys, as always, for being here. I will see you guys for the next one. Good luck as well if you guys plan to roll. So again, go give Miss Ivy my love, and I will see you guys for the next one.